It's the 10th day of May, 2015, and this is The Radical Agnostic. Episode 10, guys.
Woo! Milestone.
I get dejected sometimes. I feel like, this isn't going. I love doing it. Yeah. This isn't going anywhere. And then, right out of the blue, someone will send me a comment or something like, that was a good show. Even if it's Donald, which it always is.
Right.
I'm like, someone out there actually, he's like, I listened to the first one just out of, like, obligation of a friend. Like, all right, I'll listen to it. And then now he's listening to all of them.
Right.
I feel like I could make a snuff film and Donald would watch it just because he's a bro. I support what you do, man. Like,
you watch your bro's snuff film.
I'm like, hey, man, I appreciate it.
My name is John. My co-host is Mark.
Hello.
Thank you for being here with me through all these episodes, my man, including the first one that never came out because, of course, I recorded it wrong. The stowaway guest is here, Bryan Richter, everybody.
Howdy.
And our guest, the great Nick Richardson. Richardson in Portuguese.
It's a really dope energy in here right now.
I'm feeling
really dope energy in here.
Wow, whoever's closest should punch him.
Yeah, that's an inside joke from the jiu-jitsu tournament yesterday. Anyway, Nick is, how old are you now?
I'm 25.
25, and he's probably had more experiences than I have at this point. He's also, you have no right to be as funny as you are at this age.
You
guys will hear the nuggets will start flying out.
It's ridiculous.
So, Nick, you're a first lieutenant in the U.S. Army.
Soon to be former
retired?
Not retired, but yeah.
Oh, that's not what it is?
No, if you do 20 years, you're retired. I just got out after just a little over 4 years.
So you don't get any pension at all?
No.
Oh, no. See, I thought you were getting a check.
Now, you went in with a degree. Are you still eligible for GI Bill? Could you go back to school to further your education on them?
Yeah, you're still eligible for the post 9/11 GI Bill automatically if you do more than...
That's cool. So are you going to do that?
Yeah, I may eventually. I also paid into the Montgomery GI Bill, so I've got some options. But
that's cool.
Where were you stationed, man? You just got back.
I went through basic training, OCS, and infantry basic officer leadership course in Fort Benning, Georgia.
Eat the mic.
Which is in Columbus, and then I was stationed with the 3rd Infantry Division in Fort Stewart, Georgia, which is out by Savannah, Hinesville.
So you can attest to the fact that, and then where were you overseas?
Oh, and then I was in Wardak province in Afghanistan for 9 months during 2013.
Were you in the shit, as they say?
Not as much in the shit as like others around me, but you got like different levels of in the shit out there, and I was definitely not like the top level. Like I wasn't like going outside the wire every day, like getting shot at like personally, but where we were at was a little dicey of an area, so we took some indirect fire from some rockets, some artillery, and we had some V-bids.
So these guys are in the mountains, tucked away. And they've got various levels of equipment like mortars and like RPGs or what, and then stuff will just come flying at you guys out of thin air.
I mean, they have like the weapon systems they have. It's a lot of indirect fire stuff, and they're not very good with it. Like they're not very accurate.
And they don't want to get close, right?
Well, exactly. I mean that sort of stuff can fire. The problem is we have what's called PTIDs, which is persistent threat. Some persistent threat detection system, I think is what it is. And it's literally a giant blimp, like a giant white blimp that flies over the fob. And it's got a 360-degree camera on the bottom of it, and it can see miles. And then there's other systems we have where if something is fired at us, they can automatically locate where that came from.
By trajectory?
Based on the trajectory. The PTIDs will automatically go to those coordinates, and we can see what's there. And then we can run a counter-fire mission.
I'm fairly certain they pioneered that blimp technology out here, down in Sierra Vista, the blimp on the border blimps.
They might have. It's
pretty similar technology to what they have there?
It's pretty cool. Like, you can just sit there and watch it, and they can zoom in. I mean, you can see dudes just walk, like an individual person walking down the street, miles and miles away.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even want to, like, take a guess at how far they can see, but they can see a ways. As long as you have line of sight.
Yeah.
But then, it's a blimp, so it's way up in the air, so you have a lot of
So is it armored, or how is it protected from getting shot?
I think it's
just... No, you would have to get...
high?
You would have to get so close to shoot it, and then you're going to get shot. Like, it's not worth it to bring down the blimp.
So, how many guys are in these pockets of resistance? Taliban? Wait, what are we talking about?
I mean,
here?
I guess they're technically. I mean, they're just not friendly.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they're like truly like Taliban radical Islamists, guys like that. I mean, a lot of them are just dudes that are kind of sick of us being there.
Oh, jeez.
And so it's kind of like, well,
You heard it from the horse's mouth, people.
I do still think we have a mission there. Though.
Definitely.
Like getting imported in there too. People from other countries going
Pakistan.
There. Yeah.
Well, and a lot of it's a money thing too. I mean, there's Afghanistan's super, super poor.
Yeah.
So it's like you can't just go down to the Walmart and get a job. So it's like you got to make money somehow. And if this dude is like, hey man, I'll give you $5 to go launch rockets at this U.S. base. I mean, that's $5 that you ain't gonna make any other way over there. So you're like, well, fuck it, like let's see what we can do. So you don't necessarily like hate the U.S., right. But you're just kind of like it's an opportunity thing.
It's a job.
The guys who are running it, I mean, they definitely want us out of there. But I think a lot of like the lower level guys, the guys that are actually doing the dirty work, I don't think they have any idea like what they're really getting into. They're just trying to make some money.
I've been kind of touting this idea for a while now that what we have with radical Islam is largely, not completely, a socioeconomic problem. So you have a poor area of the world. I mean, it's just like the Christians in Africa that are passing laws where you can execute homosexuals. That's bad. And people, are saying that Islam is worse than Christianity fundamentally. And my point is that I just think that Islam is centered in a part of the world that's completely impoverished. So
in a place that's super undereducated too.
Yeah,
like that's the other thing is I mean we have access to learn about this stuff and they don't have that. So if someone comes into their little river valley and starts telling them that the Americans are the great devil and we hate,
they can tell them anything.
And they can't like hop online and be like, well, I'm going to double check that on Wikipedia real quick. They're just like, oh, okay, like fuck those guys. So that's how they really create a lot of that. And then like I said, a lot of it's just there's not a whole lot to do over there.
Yeah.
So what you're saying though, John, is that and I think what you've contended in the past, which is what you alluded to, is that if the socioeconomic conditions were the same in this country for Christians, we would see the same kind of radical type of fundamentalism and fanaticism and these extreme acts from Christians if they were put in the same situation.
I mean, I don't know if this is accurate. I'm wondering if the people that make up the hate groups in this country are generally from a lower socioeconomic status. I don't know if that's true to say. Maybe not, but I definitely think that radicalism flourishes in an impoverished environment where you don't have the job that makes you fulfilled. People's relationships suffer when they're poor.
Well, that's hard to argue.
Yeah, I mean everything gets worse when you're really, really poor.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. So, just let me hit you hard out of the gate then, Nick. When you were over there, were you defending my freedom? So this whole thing is, soldiers are, they deserve an exceptional level of respect, not only because of their courage and all that, but because they are fighting for and putting themselves at risk for my right to free speech and my freedom.
I can speak more to Afghanistan. I won't really get into like Iraq. Iraq, that's a whole nother war. But I mean, if you're talking about Afghanistan, you look at the conditions of why we went in there in the first place. That place was run by a radical Islamic government, which we didn't really care about at the time, until they started letting these terror groups in there, and these terror groups were just.
Well, in the 80s, we were arming them and training them.
Well, yeah, against the Russians. I'm talking. I'm talking in the couple years leading
Right.
up to
Or-
9/11,
yeah.
prior to 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, the history of that region, that whole region, much less just that country, is insane.
Yeah, that was my dad's era of the
Yeah.
military. That
No, I'm just talking like, leading up during the 90s
Right.
or whatever. So we had these weapons that we had put in the country, whatever. But really, what I think started is these terror groups were moving in there because they could, move around with impunity. They could train. They could plan and coordinate attacks out of
well,
there.
they had a regime or a government
That's what
that
I'm
was
saying. They had a government
sympathetic
that
to
was
them.
sympathetic.
Yeah.
I mean, even if they weren't,
I mean, beyond sympathetic, they were fucking supportive.
that's what I'm saying. So then 9/11 happened, and it became very clear that we can't allow these terror groups to move with impunity in this region.
And were they Al Qaeda was centered in Afghanistan, or could you even say there is a center?
Yeah, they were from all over.
Yeah.
It was I know, like, obviously Bin Laden was from Saudi Arabia,
Yeah.
and there were several.
Like 13 of the 15,
several of the
hijackers were Saudi.
I mean, and you've even got higher-ranking guys though that were like Libyan, and so I mean, it was from that whole, not even region. I mean, it was really from all over Islam that had joined. But I think it was more we realized, okay, we need to go get these guys because they definitely need to pay for what they did. And then we realized the Taliban, like, they weren't going to let us just go in there and get the intelligence we needed and to really get these guys off the street, so to speak. So then it became, okay, well, now in order to get to these guys and in order to sort of stop
Chop the head
to stop them from being able to do this in the future, well, now I guess we got to deal with the Taliban. But anytime you displace like a government, that's not just something you're like, okay, yeah, we got rid of this government, like everything will be cool now.
Right.
Like you're opening up a whole new can of worms. And then that's what we did. And then we've been over there ever since trying to restabilize. And, the Taliban didn't exactly go quietly. They kind of just like went into hiding a little bit.
And there was heavy fighting.
Yeah, and now, I mean, they're just fighting just a textbook insurgency against us. And
I guess it makes sense that we started it. It kind of, I mean, the Taliban had overthrown, there was a government there.
Right.
And then the Taliban took the main city, the capital, and just killed Kabul and took control of the country. And they weren't really governing even, were they? They're just a...
Sharia law, they just instituted Sharia, right?
You got to really understand like the way that Afghanistan works, and Bryan will like this comparison.
Well, it's like 99% rural mountains.
It's like the Indian tribes back in like the late 19th century. Like there was no central government.
No.
You have these tribes. You have, first off, we drew these fucking lines, after World War II.
And they don't mean shit to those people.
No, they don't.
Arbitrary.
So we're throwing, people of Persian descent
Right.
and with people of, Tajik descent. And, you've got 8 different languages. You've got Pashtun is spoken in the south. You get Dari up in the north.
Farsi.
Well, we drive them
Arabic.
into places where they're in conflict with other
Exactly.
tribes,
So, like,
and they're in close proximity. And we did the same fucking thing to
So
the
like
Indians.
we just
I do
drew
like
these
that analogy.
these arbitrary lines around them, and we're like, you're now a country. Here's your government. But they're like, man, I don't care about this central government. Like I'm in some random river valley, you know what I mean? Like up in Kunar province, and you're living in some mud hut down in Helmand province. Like we're not a part of the same country.
Yeah.
It's not like America where it's like
The flag
oh, hey
unites
brother,
us
you're
all.
from Maine and I'm from California. You're like America. Over there, it's like there's no concept of
Right.
of this centralized government. So they ruled maybe some of the larger areas, but it's still a whole lot of just Confederate little tribes essentially, and they may have lived in this one river valley for several generations. They may never leave that river valley.
So it's a true third world, what you would call a third world country. They're not developed.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not a developed nation.
No, definitely not developed.
They have a lot of opium.
It's still tribal. Yeah.
That's their main export, I think.
Well, and that's why they're
Opium.
easy to oppress. Also, like they don't those people that are fighting us now, the ones you're talking about, trying to make $5 and feed their family, they're just as oppressed as the Native Americans that you talked about, man. They get the government can come in and run them off that land anytime they want. They don't have much say. There's nobody to stand up for them because, like you said, there's no central authority other than one that's pretty corrupt. And I'm not sure that we even replaced him. Wasn't Hamed Karzai like a fucking warlord and an opium guy in his own right? I mean, like I don't know a lot about this, but he's not a good guy.
He had a lot of business connections, I think.
And
So that's how his name came up.
And that seems to be a
When the
recurring
CIA
theme
was,
with what we do. We go in and we root out one group of fucked up people, and then we take our group of fucked up people and we put them in charge, and then 20 years later we got to come back and deal with it.
So, to my cute little question, your answer is, look, we went in there for a decent, rational reason, and we're still there.
Effect.
And we're there because to leave would just be chaos.
I mean, everybody wants like this, tidy solution to something. Like, 9/11 happened. Like, well, we'll just go kill Al Qaeda and we'll be over it. And it's like, and there's cause and effect. Like, if you want to get to Al Qaeda, you got to get rid of the Taliban. And if you get rid of the Taliban, you're going to have to put something else in place to keep them from retaking power. And in order to do that, I mean, that's a decade. That could be a generation-long process.
Well, and during that, you're going to make enemies.
Yeah, and then then it becomes a jihad. So now you're fighting foreign fighters who are coming in, even though it's had nothing to do with them. That's the way that they're selling it to each other, which is like, hey, man, like they're attacking Islam, which we weren't. But again, like you're talking about guys that,
Well, and once jihad starts, it's like Bukowski and Barfly. Like even if they're getting their ass kicked, they're going to keep fighting.
Well, and then
it doesn't end for them.
Well, and then we didn't help our cause when then we turned around and invaded Iraq 2 years later. It was kind of hard to deny, like
under false pretenses.
Yeah, I mean that like I said, that war, like I can't even really like give you a.
So I guess hopefully then we're all united in the opinion that some of us are okay with the wars that we're in. Some of us are very much against them. But if I protest that one of the wars we're in is unjust and not good, it's bullshit to call me unpatriotic, right? Because by criticizing the war, I'm not I'm not shitting on the guys who are fighting for my freedom.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. You can, hate the player, don't hate the or hate the game, don't hate the player. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you can definitely hate the fact that we're over there, but it's when you get people, and it doesn't happen. Like, it's not near as common as people like to portray it. It's like, oh man, they spit on me and called me a baby killer. Like, that shit doesn't really happen. But if it did happen, that would be messed up because, like, I wasn't over there because I wanted to take a vacation to Afghanistan. Like, I went over there because that's where we were told to go, and we were given a mission, and we did it. So you can be against that mission.
Why did you join in the first place? And it might not be a simple reason. I mean, you were a young man.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot.
Was it in your family? Or?
Many people in my family were veterans, and then I had kind of wanted to join out of high school, but my parents wanted me to go to college. So I ended up going to college. And in the back of my mind, I still was always kind of wanted to go serve. And then eventually I changed my mind. I wanted to join the police department, which is actually what I'm doing now. But this was like 2010. They were like laying people, like no one was hiring. It was really bad. So I kind of saw the writing on the wall. I was like, well, I'm definitely not getting on with the police department like anytime soon. So I applied to OCS. I had my degree and I went in. So
the high school you that wanted to join though, what was it? Was it something you could honestly call patriotic? Isn't that a really abstract concept to motivate someone? Or doesn't it? And I have no right to say this stuff, but I am a man, so I know a little bit about what I'm talking about, which is that I think a lot of us want that physical and mental challenge and the moral challenge of men all the time put themselves in painful and dangerous positions.
Well, that's what it is when you're an 18-year-old
I don't think there's
kid,
any brain behind it. I'm not saying it's bad or at all. It's a great thing about men. It's why we do jujitsu and stuff. But I'm just saying I think that's what motivates a lot of soldiers who end up in combat, and the ideology or the reason for that comes later, and they sort of tack it on.
Yeah,
because
I would agree. I don't think it's this patriotism thing of like
every time I saw a bald eagle,
I cried. He was in the Air Force back in the late 70s, early 80s.
But still, your first role model is a guy in a uniform.
Well, but I never knew. I mean, he was out of the military 10 years before I was born, so I never knew him like in the military.
Okay. I thought it was like me, where I just grew up and my dad comes home every day in a uniform, and that's
no. When I was growing up, I had no one in my family was still in the military.
Interesting.
Yeah, like my dad did his 4 years in Vietnam, and that was it.
I would say I think a big part of like why the 18-year-olds like why you really want to join. You want to be a part of something bigger than yourself. You want to be a part of something that's got the tradition, and kind of you want to be a part of that. As you grow up, and our culture is like very, very much idolizes soldiers. Yeah. And you see that a lot as a kid, and as a young, Is there something horribly fucked up about that? Because a lot of those soldiers end up going over there and dying. So is there a lie baked into that image of the soldier? I mean, like the liberal would say, there's a lie baked into that. The government is cooking that up and romanticizing it, and they give you the commercials. Army of one. I definitely think there's a lot of propaganda that goes into it, but it's not all bad. Like, there's actually a lot of benefits to like a young man like joining the military and having those experiences.
That's a really good
point.
I
mean, I've seen a lot of dudes. There's a lot of people that go into it as just like little shithead fucking 18-year-olds. Like, they're fat,
like
they're lazy,
I was.
they're undisciplined,
and they get mature.
Yeah, and like you grow up real quick.
Yeah,
and you learn, a lot about things you would never know about, and you interact with people you'd never interact with, and you go places you'd never go.
And you're forced to depend on those people.
Well, and
like to trust
that's what I'm saying. It's something bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
Like no one gives.
But see,
a fuck
it had
about
to be
you in
something
the Army,
bigger.
man.
It had to be something bigger than that for you, though, because I would contend that you were already a part of something like that. You were a part of a good jiu-jitsu gym. There's a lot. You're part of something with tradition, with honor.
Yeah,
so,
but it's so much more. The Army is.
That's what I'm saying, though. It's bigger than that because you already did belong to something like that.
Yeah, I think there's like a sense of adventure that it appeals to as well.
Yeah. It's bigger than that.
And then, I think it's a good thing. Like, I think if a lot more people did, I'm not saying everyone should go to war.
Right.
I'm saying if a lot more people did a little bit of time in the military.
So
though,
would you be
it would
for, like
improve.
in a lot of countries it's mandatory 2 years, 4 years service?
Israel.
Would you be for something like that? I think
No,
Germany used to do that too.
Israel does it now.
I wouldn't be for mandatory, because if you don't want to be there, I don't want you there. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, I got enough
point.
problems, man. I don't need guys in my platoon who don't even want to fucking be there.
Which I heard is kind of a problem. Different places, like even in the war zone, like guys who don't want to be there and guys who don't want to fight, and maybe even kind of won't.
It was a huge issue even during Vietnam. Like, if you got guys.
Well, that was a draft.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Any sort of conscription, any sort of
even
mandatory
now though, like
service.
My buddy Andy's talking about being down in the valley. Like, hey, who's up on the ridge today? And when they tell him, he's like, well, fuck, those guys aren't even going to back us up, dude. Like, we're fucked.
Yeah, I mean, think about the video game playing, like just what the American male is today. He's not exactly. You can't really imagine him doing something hard and dangerous and putting himself. I'm not saying we're all cowards, but I just think we're very selfish.
The average American male only has balls on Facebook.
Right.
That's it.
Well, that's what
they fucking dry up as soon as he logs off.
Mm-hmm. You had mentioned that before you went in, nobody was hiring and it was hard to get a job. I was going to ask you, how many people that are in the service are in there for the job?
So,
and they're for work because they couldn't.
No, that's absolutely
better opportunity or whatever.
I'm not gonna lie. Like, as an officer, I got paid. I got paid very well. That's not necessarily the same for the guys that go in as an E1, private.
They get $28,000 or something to start.
Well,
but
even then,
to pay rent.
Yeah, but here's the thing: if you're a young single guy. Okay, you're only getting $2,800 or $20,000 a year, but you got a free place to live. Yeah, granted, it's the barracks, which guys will bitch about.
Yeah, but you don't have to.
But like
pay
when
for
I was 18, I would have loved a free place to live. You know what I mean?
You can save up money fast
in the barracks with all your buddies. Like, it's not a totally bad gig.
And
honestly,
like, as bad as it sounds, you go out to the field for a month.
out here.
Yeah, like you go out to the field for a month. Like, you're not spending any money out there. You're fucking in the woods in a sleeping bag. So you come back, and it's like, oh, well, I got all this money in my bank account. So it's definitely not, and you got free health care too. I mean, that's the other thing that like a lot of people really overlook is TRICARE is ridiculous. Like, I remember when I had my kid, or I didn't have my kid, my wife had her kid while I was in, and I remember seeing the bill. It was like $40,000.
What, for the hospital?
Well, because she was like a high risk pregnancy. She had like some blood pressure issues while she was pregnant, and so she had to go to like off base to the hospital. And she had been in there a couple of days before he actually was born, and it was a C-section. It was just like all this stuff, and it was like 40 grand total, and like we didn't pay a cent. Like that bill went straight to the Army. Like,
wow.
Never, so I mean, you can't overrate. Like, I mean, you guys know, like you can't overrate how much that is. Where you're like, oh, I could get hurt tomorrow, and it's not
but like
thing,
you said, a lot of those enlisted guys. Now the young single guy, great, but the young guy with the family, a lot of these dudes are still on food stamps, man. They don't have enough to get by.
Well, I mean, but a lot of those guys would be on food stamps even if they were out of the Army.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, hey, if you're 19 years old and you got 3 kids, man, like you made some choices. You know what I mean? Like the army can help. Like again, you're getting a solid paycheck. You're getting
I saw a lot of
paycheck,
while we were in the Army. I saw a lot of like senior enlisted guys that would go and pitch in and bring food or give money to lower enlisted guys with big families that weren't getting by. I know my dad did it quietly a few times.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're always
they take care of each other.
But
I think that goes to what you said about being part of something bigger.
But Nick, Mark, sort of, when I bring up that I think some soldiers, I've said it crudely before that they want to kill. What I really mean is they have an irrational, and I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just a non-rational drive for chaotic, violent, challenging, adventurous situations.
I mean, they want the jazz.
They want the jazz.
It's the same reason like every dude wants to be in a fight.
Exactly.
Know?
And like Mark always says, well, but a lot of it is that they just want a job. And I think it's more true. His thing is more true and is true in more cases than the thing I'm talking about. But you took a track that you knew was going to lead you to combat or light combat or whatever it was that you experienced. You did that on purpose, whereas other officers we know took a track where they'll never see.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure they offered you something besides infantry, bro.
Well, I mean, you had a choice at OCS. You were ranked based on your test scores and everything.
But I'm pretty sure you could have done.
Oh, I could have done almost any branch.
So I think what John, are you asking him why he picked infantry? Why'd you pick something that you knew was going to put you in a position to be on the wrong end of a gun?
And the people that don't want to be in that situation ever, they can do that for the most part. They can
take a job in the military.
Maybe not
where
the
they don't
uneducated enlisted guys, right?
Oh no, even they could be 88 mic truck drivers if they really wanted to.
It's in other words, it's a choice. Combat is a choice in the military today in America.
But and the reason people take those choices is like they want to know what it's like. And
well, why'd you take it though? Like, why'd my friend Nick Richardson decide to go put himself in harm's way for fucking real?
Did you want to hold up a rifle and shoot at a guy?
Yeah, because I didn't want to sit behind a desk all day. Which ironically, I wound up spending most of my career behind a desk because that's just what officers do.
Yeah.
But you want to be out in the field, man, and you want to when you go out, you want to have the gun, and you want to be with other guys who want those same things. Infantry is an all-male branch, so it's just you and a bunch of other fucking guys, and like they all want to get after it, and everyone is relatively.
That's what I wanted when I went to the recruiting office.
That's what I wanted.
Everybody's relatively
I went to the Marines
in shape
first.
and disciplined, and
they said no.
Yeah, you just got a lot of like-minded guys.
But did you want that because you had been in like Boy Scouts and other stuff and gone hiking and had those experiences before and enjoyed them? Or did you want that kind of experience because you wanted to kill someone? Because you wanted the you know what I mean? Or not even kill someone, but have someone shooting at you and you're shooting back and you're in the shit and you're, you know what I mean? Kind of excitement of...
I would put it this way, like, I would direct to Bryan and John, like, why did you guys choose jiu-jitsu as a hobby as opposed to stamp collecting?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, both of them are hobbies. There are people who enjoy both things, but which one appealed to you? Why did it appeal to you? Well, because it's fucking hard, and you're in there with a bunch of dudes who want to fucking get after it, and it makes you, the way that you see yourself, it makes you a better person. It makes you more disciplined, more in shape. It's more exciting. You look forward to going to practice. It's the same thing with the infantry. Like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I want to shoot someone in the face. Like, I didn't really want to shoot anybody. I definitely didn't want to get shot. But it was like, I didn't want to be a quartermaster officer, like counting fucking towels and bed sheets in some room, counting fucking fuel. I didn't want to be an ordnance officer, like destroying out ammo and.
I totally.
If I was gonna do it, man, I was gonna do it. I was gonna be out there with a rifle, like shooting people. And I never really got to do. I never got to do that. So I mean, that's the way it breaks. Like, I never got to shoot at anybody. Like, I was never really.
But have you like analyzed the moral nature of that? Because you don't have very strong feelings that the war itself is that. I mean, it's maybe necessary to hold the country together now, so it doesn't go to shit. But you're not really into the war, but you did want to get into the fighting. So you were the first thing you said here was a sympathetic portrayal of the enemy, kind of.
I mean, but they're still the enemy, man. Like they made their choices.
If they're
like,
shooting
I made my
at me.
choices. You know what I mean? Like,
right. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
I was kind of
choices,
indifferent to it all.
Neither
man,
of you made
know?
because just about where you were born,
Right.
which isn't your choice.
Completely random.
I think most soldiers, in the end, portray what you described as a sympathetic portrait of the enemy because, and I think that goes back to even combat sports. Like without your opponent, you're nothing. If you don't have anybody to fight or defend against, or there's nothing. If there's nothing for you to stand up to protect us from, then are you even a soldier?
And if you don't respect your opponent, it's not a real fight. So you do have to respect them as a human being.
Well, I think, and that comes back to some of the stuff we talk about. Like even guys you're fighting against, you can find things to respect about them eventually. Like they don't fight as good as us. They don't fight as organized. Maybe we don't think they're fighting for the right reasons. But everything I read, guys respect that they fight.
And that's the crazy thing about war is you have guys shooting at their equivalent from another country.
Yeah.
It's the guys every barracks in every army in every country is the same situation. It's the same fart jokes and
So if what Beef said is true, if it's about where you're born, like Nick and his buddies, if they're born in Iraq, the dudes that they're fucking shooting at are the guys they would hang out with.
Exactly.
They would be your drinking buddies if you were there.
Well, except for like in Afghanistan, I don't think they probably have barracks. They're not. They're not that.
I'm just talking about national armies.
Yeah. Well, hey,
like
World
War II, like
France
France and England versus Germany, and so.
But so I want to ask Nick. But as John's trying to say, did you have anyone that you ever came across in your military experience that was like rabid to kill someone?
Oh, yeah,
we know that
absolutely.
exists.
Absolutely. That's why I'm here. I want to kill.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely guys like that, but then a lot of that bullshit too. You get a lot of guys who just talk a lot of shit,
right?
But
I mean, someone that was actually like almost psychotic, like like if.
But they're not. Those are good soldiers. You don't view them as psychotic.
Well, no, but if they're not in war, you view them as psychotic.
Yeah, I know.
If they're in your neighborhood,
weird thing.
you view them as psychotic.
Right.
So what I'm asking is like that's your point, is you think there's all these guys
I think they're in there.
like that.
We know there are. There's Chris Kyle.
I know there are people like that, but I don't know about how many of them there are.
Yeah, because
I'd also like to know what other people that aren't like that, what they think about them.
Good question.
In the military, like if they're like, you want them having your back, or you.
I mean, if you've got issues and if you're identified as a loose cannon, like no, you're not appreciated in that situation because again, it ain't Rambo, man. Like I don't want Bryan to fucking hop up with a 240 Bravo and go running across the field, like shooting people. Like no,
giving
man,
away
like,
your location.
You're my 240 gunner, man. Like I put you in that position because here's your sector of fire. Like cover down, dude. So like if you're just doing your own thing out there, you're getting other people killed. Like you're fucking us over.
It's a team effort.
So it's absolutely a team effort. So if you're that sort of dude that wants to do his own thing, like no, you don't have a place, and you're definitely weeded out. I don't know about I'm trying to think if I ran across anyone who was just batshit crazy.
I think they have plenty of time to weed those guys out for the most part,
except for that guy.
And that's
Afghanistan.
usually
the one who's killed like 8 people.
Not your
It
only
was
issue, man.
15 people with a knife, and then he burned them.
But they had time.
But
to,
a lot of
what
that,
I read
though,
those they had
probably,
time to get him out. Like there were warning signs. He had talked to counselors. They kept deploying him. Like they could have pulled that fucking dude.
Yeah, you got to understand, man. Those guys used to do like 16-month deployments, like even more. Like I did 9.
Bro, you were with the 3rd Infantry, and when they first went into Baghdad, they didn't get relieved for fucking ever.
Oh yeah, that's back during the Thunder Run. Like
they were there. They did like back to back deployments. The 3rd Infantry did.
Oh no, like and that's so a lot of those guys, he may not have been a bad dude until he went on 4. He did 4 deployments in 8 years. And like you don't know what he saw over there.
Right.
Like you don't know how many of his buddies like he had to fucking bury. Well, not bury, but how many of his buddies he had to see die.
But Mark,
I don't want people to think we actually bury people in Afghanistan. But like, it's not the way it works.
Not our guys.
They come home. But you don't know what he saw that like just fucking pushed him over the edge, man. And like you don't know what was going on at home.
It can be too much.
But Mark, I don't think that you have to be psychotic or crazy to want to kill. So I'm not. You're talking about an more extreme level. I'm not judging morally the soldiers that I'm talking about. I know guys like that, and I get it. I get wanting to do that. I tried to do it myself. but I have that fucking misdemeanor.
Well, if I'm there, I want those dudes that want to fight. I mean, I don't want that psychotic guy that you're talking about that's just like got a hard dick to kill somebody, but I do want the Chris Kyle. And I want the guy who wanted to fight.
I don't think you have. That might be considered crazy in this liberal culture, psychological.
But only half the culture.
But I don't think it is crazy. I think it's.
We need those guys.
Yeah. Well,
you know how I feel about it. I won't even kick that horse.
Right.
I fucking love those guys.
I don't think anybody hates Chris Kyle for what he did downrange.
No.
I mean, the dude.
Well,
the dude won 2 silver stars and like 5 bronze stars. Like, that's ridiculous. So like, no one will question that whatever he did downrange, like, he was a hero. The problem with Chris Kyle is what happened.
Nick, they do question that he was a hero downrange.
Because he shot people.
Because he shot people, and because he enjoyed it. I read his fucking book. He said, "I know it sounds crazy. I loved war."
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about. But look, like Michael Moore disagrees with the war, and then therefore he doesn't like this conservative character that Chris Kyle is.
Right.
So there's nothing that he likes about it. So he takes the whole thing and trashes it and just says snipers are cowards. You know, they're not heroes anyway. Like this isn't like Audie Murphy from World War I, who was like running through the trenches, knifing Germans, and killed like 57 dudes and shaved his whole platoon. This is a sniper with like a $50,000 rifle.
I wish people actually knew like what snipers did.
I wish I did.
Like, everybody thinks that they're like posted up on the top of some roof just like murking people. Dude, your average sniper like carries a heavy ass gun to the top of a ridge, sits there
plus
and
another
recons.
Gun.
Yeah, him and his little team, they carry all their shit up there, they set in, they recon, and then they go home. You know what I mean? Like, they're your eyes up there. That's the majority of a sniper's job.
Are you saying
I'm not speaking for SEAL snipers and all that, but I'm just saying like your average.
But what the things they were asking to do in reading his book, they did a lot of things like reconning an area, pinpointing enemy positions, so Marines wouldn't get fucking destroyed when they went in there.
It's a good example. That's another fucking
keeping their heads down.
Another SEAL movie, because you can never have enough. Is Lone Survivor, because that's what those dudes did. Like, they grabbed their shit, they walked to the top of a hill, they set in. And their job was just to watch this village. And, like, if they saw the dude they were looking for, that was
report
their job.
On movements,
and they were sitting there,
targets.
you saw them that they were drawing sector sketches, like they're drawing, and that's all they're doing. Now, of course, that went bad. Otherwise, you would have never heard of it, because if it had gone like it should have, they would have walked their ass over the other side of the hill, gone down, gone.
So you're saying they rarely fire? They're more intelligent.
So some people say like, oh, snipers, like they're shooting people when they're like, no, your average sniper is actually doing a real important job.
But we're talking about Chris Kyle, though.
Right?
This dude was blowing heads off left and right.
But he'll tell you too, he was lucky. Like, somehow every time he got on the gun, he got a lot of action, and he was deployed to forward areas where there was a lot of fighting. And
I don't think Chris Kyle is a crazy person. I think that society has always had these people. I guess you would call them warriors. They're not exactly philosophers, the warrior, but they're not bad people. They operate off of a visceral, masculine urge, and I'm critical of liberal culture for like ignoring that. Like, to us, the soldier has to be the patriot. The soldier has to be this intellectual who's thinking about freedom and the flag.
It's like a Mel Gibson.
That's how, because we can't celebrate masculinity.
It's just what propaganda you choose to accept and want to, you know what I mean? Like the whole Audie Murphy knifing Germans, and people have chosen to accept that war as a good war.
Well,
that war was a good war.
Americans don't even
fought the Nazis.
No, you're talking about two. Audie Murphy was from one, and most Americans don't.
Audie Murphy
was from two.
Audie Murphy was from two. Yeah,
I'm sorry. Who was the guy from one?
Which one?
There was a hero.
Well,
there was lots of them. I'm sure.
I'm cutting this part out.
Oh, you mean Jeff? Oh yeah, dude. Jeff was a badass. All right.
I don't like being wrong.
No,
Audie Murphy was World War II.
Okay. He was in 115. Or no, he was in.
Yeah, because when he came back, he was in actually movies in Hollywood.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I knew all that about him. I just thought this was the trench warfare. Maybe he did a World War I movie after World War II. Okay,
but I don't even think Chris Kyle is crazy or insane or psychopathic, because if he was, he would be the same outside of that situation. I mean, like, so I'm talking about people that if they didn't go to war, if they didn't join the military,
they would kill.
If they didn't go to war, they'd be in their neighborhood scoping somebody out to kill them. That's what I'm talking about. And,
I think that's almost non-existent.
Yeah. Right, and
because
that was what
those are
I thought you
psychopaths.
were talking about.
No.
Like someone that joins because they really want to kill, and if they don't get to kill, they're going to have to kill someone, and they don't want to go to jail.
Those dudes get weeded out real quick.
Yeah, that was a misunderstanding that I
now there are people that get that way. Like, we were talking about the guy, and I can't remember his name, but the guy that went in and killed all those people in the village. And there's people that turn into that. Again,
the Spartans used to call it being blood drunk.
Yeah, it's a very small percentage. Like this whole PTSD, every veteran's a fucking psycho who just wants to kill people. It's not true. It's a very
that's
rare
another harmful
that crazy that they start killing villagers.
That's another harmful image of soldiers too. Yeah, that they're all crazy and loose cannons. And then you get something like this Chris Kyle thing where that dude did shoot him on the range. The guy he was trying to help. Though that makes, but that's a high profile case, and that's not, like you said, it's really rare.
Yeah, because that's the thing. So that gets all this attention. But
I think this culture can't accept who soldiers are. They're men who want action for no reason.
I think that's from both sides. I think that's from both conservatives and liberals.
Yes, exactly.
Liberals don't want to accept them as human because they kill, because they're doing these things that they believe they would never do if they were put in the same situation.
And so they have to make them into a victim.
Right.
The soldier is the victim.
Right, the victim. And then conservatives the same way. They want to place them above everybody.
As these glistening heroes.
These are these,
patriotic,
shining,
waving the flag.
Right.
Doing it for us at home, doing it for the freedom. Come on, these people don't have complex motives like that.
Well, and maybe some people do. But I think what this show is about is talking about because the reality of it is, if you take the armed forces as a pie, what would you say, Nick? Maybe 5% of the pie does 95% of the fighting.
Oh, as far as the actual
combat. Fighting is done by such a small percentage of the people that are in the military. Those forward infantry units, and right now it's those tier 1 guys, right, are pretty much the dudes doing most of the fighting. The special forces, pinpointing targets. Air Force comes in and strikes. There's not a lot of big tank or infantry movements like conventional warfare anymore. It's these smaller units engaging other smaller units.
No, it absolutely is. I mean, there are people who get caught up in it. Like you have your logistics people who are running convoys, and they'll get IEDs and whatever.
But I mean, it's the blanket kind of thing that we deal with all the time on this show, where the left has it one way under their blanket, and the right has it another way under their blanket, and all these soldiers get lumped into the idea about specifically the combat soldier. And there's actually very few combat soldiers as opposed to what the Army and Navy and Air Force and Marines, indirect contact with the enemy.
I'm just not interested in the other 95% because their motives are so mundane and obvious. It's get a job. It's be in a bureaucracy. That's what we all do. We all
actually, my problem with the military is more than other 95% because my problem is the amount of money we spend on it.
Yeah.
Not anything else. Like most of the wars,
defense spending, but most of that's R&D though, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. It's R&D, and then it's also ends up benefiting
DARPA.
Private companies.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Private companies, yeah. Very good point.
Fuck yeah, those tax dodging dickheads.
It creates a lot of jobs, though.
It does.
And I mean,
but they're government
the big
jobs.
one that everyone likes to talk about are the M1A1 Abrams tanks, which are we have a ton of them, man.
And we're probably still making them.
Well,
and
so here's
no
the thing.
function.
So every time it comes down, we renew this contract to keep creating more tanks, and everyone's looking around going, there ain't no tanks in Afghanistan, man. I mean, sure there are some in the South, but I never saw a tank in Afghanistan.
Well, where there are a lot of tanks, bro? Russia.
Well, but here's the thing: we have more tanks than we could man, and yet we keep ordering more. Well, the reason is because some congressman that tank that tank manufacturing plants in his district.
Yep.
If those go away,
Right.
every job in his, not every job, but the majority of jobs in his district go away. So of course he's, because he wants to get reelected. So
that company just gave him money and said, we're funding your campaign. Now, you're not even from the same state as you, but you're our senator now.
Well, and that happens.
Here's $150,000.
That's the seedier part of it. I mean, I'm talking like the legit, like, hey, that guy's just trying to hook his. I mean, we've got Raytheon.
His job is to
we've
serve
got
his
Raytheon
constituents.
Missile Company right here in Tucson. It's a huge employer. My grandfather, my mom, my dad, all my aunts and uncles were.
How many people does Raytheon employ? Like how many jobs would Tucson?
Thousands of jobs. Well, guess what? They get money from the government to develop fucking weapons that we use in these wars.
They're getting a lot of that DARPA budget, I think.
There would be a lot of unemployed people in Tucson if Raytheon went away.
Well, Alexis is going to be on the show. He actually programs flight paths and software for those missiles. So
and even more along those same lines, when they were talking about getting rid of the A-10.
Yeah,
Talking
exactly.
about getting rid of the A-10.
Which is
Everybody in Arizona was up in arms.
That's what Davis Monthan.
Well, because they closed Davis Monthan.
DMV.
Right.
So they gave it another year.
Think of what happens to the Tucson economy if Davis Monthan goes away.
Yep.
That's a lot.
It wouldn't necessarily go away, but like you move all those units out of here, like.
Well, think of how much less money's coming into the community. You think all this service, these fucking restaurants are going to stay open?
Oh, it was the same way. They did
more jobs are going to be lost.
In the Army recently. Actually, I think it was military-wide. They did what was called BRAC, which was base realignment and closure, where they essentially went through and they knew that they needed to kind of consolidate, and they knew they were going to be getting rid of units during the drawdown and everything. So they went through, and it was so political. You know what I mean? Like I remember one of the big ones that made sense to chop was getting 3rd Brigade, 3rd ID out of Fort Benning, because the rest of 3rd ID was across the state at Fort Stewart. So we had 1st, 2nd, and 4th Brigade at Fort Stewart, and then we had 3rd Brigade at Fort Benning. And Fort Benning was mostly a training post at that point. All of your TRADOC took place there. And,
what does TRADOC stand for?
The Training and Doctrine Command.
Okay,
or something along those lines. They handle all the basic training, all the AIT, all the training. So, but the city of Columbus, which is where Fort Benning is, like came out and they were like, hey, we want as many people here as possible, and it became a political thing, and that happened all across the United States. They took the armor school from Fort Knox, which is where the armor school had been there forever, and they took that and ended up moving it down to Fort Benning. So Fort Benning actually got bigger. They kept 3rd Brigade. They ended up getting rid of 2nd Brigade at Fort Stewart. Yeah, but it was just all this politics of like no one wanted to lose these
the
pieces,
jobs,
even though it made sense,
or the money.
And then the
congressman
sells these contracts to the rest of Congress by accusing anyone who opposes them of being unpatriotic.
Right.
You hate the troops.
Well, you hate the troops.
And the thing is this too.
That finger's always pointing.
Everyone likes to bitch about taxes, and everyone likes to bitch about how much government spends. But when it comes down to it, nobody wants to cut from where they're from.
Yeah.
From their area.
Yeah.
And I'm not even suggesting that you need to cut from anything. It's just you're transferring funds. You're taking them away from the military. Okay, close down the 3rd Brigade or whatever. Send them over there and close down that camp where the training's happening. Open fucking school.
No, it's
open. You know what I mean?
It's political suicide, though, to put troops out of work.
No, you're not putting them out of work. There wouldn't be a training base there anymore. You'd send, like I said, the 3rd Brigade or whatever go to where he was saying with the 1st, 2nd, 4th, and then you'd give that money then to like education, or you know what I mean, or.
Are we okay? We're back. We had some technical problems. Do you remember what you were talking about, Mark?
Yes. So basically, I'm just saying everyone is used to the system how it is, and and people talk about wanting to change this or change that or something's wrong or whatever, but they don't ever want to change what they have, what's going on with them and their area or whatever. And I'm just. I don't know. Yeah,
I think anyone being an activist for any issue should include in their rant what they're willing to give up to make this thing happen.
It's always easier to maintain the status quo than it is to change.
And to demand change from other people while not doing anything different yourself.
Well, that was always, like, I always found that kind of funny with the whole 1% thing. And, like, the 99%, like, their solution was, we'll just tax the 1% more. was like, "Well, you're not part of the 1%." Like that's really easy for you to say. Right, and like I get the idea of it is that they were undertaxed proportionally, but it's like it's a lot of it's always like, well, take still
it's just there's runaway wealth where you get these people with unimaginable wealth that has no meaning to a single person. When you have $80 billion like Bill Gates did at one point, or Carlos Slim, I think, is the richest man in the world, 100 billion. And some people think a lot of these Saudi princes and kings are richer than Bill Gates, than any of those guys, but it's not listed. They have assets in all kinds of things. They have gold, they have property under other people's names, and like so.
Right, but do you actually want to give government the power to pick and choose and say, "Hey, okay, we're going to take more money from you because we think you deserve it."
Well, it's not the government. It's not the government doing it. They're doing it on behalf of the people who elect
supposedly. But are you seeing any of that money? I'm not seeing any of that money.
No, I'm saying that if a candidate, Bernie Sanders, says, if I'm president, I'm going to tax the 1% heavily, and then we vote for him for that reason, and then he tries to do that once he's in the Oval Office.
Like Nick was saying, it's because you're not that 1% that you're like, oh, okay. If some candidate came and said, you know what, we're going to tax everyone at this level, at the basic 15% or whatever.
Yeah,
that means that if you've never paid taxes, you're going to start paying taxes,
right?
Because you're going to even just pay 15%. Everyone would be pissed. Everyone would be pissed
because the poor people would have to start paying taxes.
Yeah,
well, it's
or everyone
the
would have to
middle class
pay.
Wouldn't be pissed though because they're just staying where they were.
But it's just
already paid 15.
It's just like excise taxes. Like, all right, we're gonna throw this tax on cigarettes. Why? Because the majority of the population doesn't smoke,
right?
And they think smoking's bad. Well, but if you're a smoker, you're like, well, come on, man. Like that's just because you don't do it doesn't mean I should.
So what
have
are we
to pay more
saying?
to do it.
Are we saying that? What are we saying then? Because of course someone's not gonna like any change. There's always gonna be any change is gonna hurt someone. So like just the fact that some people don't like what the I don't know, is that an argument against the policy?
My problem again, and this is probably because I'm more libertarian or whatever, but is with the government and the government using force to basically at the end of a gun is they're taking money from you. At the end of the day, because if you don't pay your taxes, what do you think is going to happen?
You'll go to jail.
You'll go to jail. What if you refuse to go to jail?
Then you get
What's
shot.
going to happen? Right. So, I mean, everyone that's complaining about police beating people down in the street or shooting them unnecessarily or whatever else, it eventually leads to the same kind of power. That's what you're giving them. You're telling the government, you know what, we're okay with you taking this amount of money.
Well, I don't think you're a libertarian.
I
think you're an anarchist. I don't know if you're anarcho-capitalist or anarcho-socialist, but to you, the government is essentially and at its core a bad thing, a power structure that can't be trusted and that only hurts.
Yeah, pretty much.
There's good arguments for anarchy and libertarianism.
So then, what would we do? And I'm not judging in any way or getting in on either side of this. But what will we do then, Mark? Will we go back to tribal government?
Do you think we could
local?
Do you think we could sustain an economy
that?
Similar to this one without a central government? Because of course, the Articles of Confederation in the first 10 or few years of the country were not working. They gave states all kinds of power. There was no president. The Congress couldn't levy taxes, couldn't raise an army, and it just...
So how do you maintain like roads and hospitals and supply lines and all that stuff that brings everything together? Because I'm not totally against, like John said, there's good arguments for this. I could do with a little less fucking supervision.
Well, I'll tell you what the libertarian answer is, because the other argument is always roads. That's it. That's what we all say to the libertarian. We're like, roads, dude, roads. We need those.
Well, and there's a lot more
but the libertarian
than that.
Will say,
like these pipes that bring water all over the fucking country and electric lines. Like, how do we maintain
and environmental standards on the quality of that water?
The regulating power of a central government too. I mean, we're sitting here using electricity at a pretty reasonable price.
Yeah.
If that's because the government tells them you will not charge more than this much.
Well, they provide subsidies.
If that goes away, that's what I'm saying. The regulation of utilities, if that government goes away, there's nothing to stop the power company.
The libertarian
this
will
is the new price, guys.
Just say, bend over here, it comes again.
The libertarian will always say a private company can do that.
Well,
for every example,
no, private
but they can also do what Nick's saying.
But it's being regulated by the government.
Yeah,
because if you don't regulate it, like I said, there's nothing that says a private. I mean, Tucson Electric Power, that's a private company.
Yeah.
And they could turn around tomorrow and jack everyone's electric bills up without regulation. And now that 1%, they're the only ones with electricity because none of us can afford it. Now you want to talk about who has the power? How about the only dude who fucking has electricity in his house?
Yeah,
because he's the only guy that can afford to pay these rates. So I mean, the government protects us from a lot of bullshit. Like as much as I mean, you know, there's some issues with them. Like they definitely do protect us from getting taken advantage of.
Mark, since you're edging towards ideological dogmatism on this subject, if I dare say.
Well, and this is what I wanted to say.
Okay.
I'm not saying that I have the answers. I'm not saying that I can sit here and for the next 15 minutes
figure out all these problems.
Fucking plan that is like what's going to solve everything that I think is the problem.
Right.
I can though point out what I think the problem is, and where I think, and I'm not even saying that the government needs to go away. I'm saying the way of thinking that our politicians,
Mark, are you asking for integrity in leadership? Is that what I hear?
About stuff? Yeah.
Wait,
I basically
who think? The public?
Well,
or the politicians?
Politicians. Let's have the politicians.
I want the public to think first. But that's more important.
But the public is changing. The public is changing in their attitudes and how they think about stuff. It's the politicians that are dragging their feet now. Especially, talk about medical marijuana, gay marriage, blah, blah, blah.
People are
whatever
ready
you
for
want to talk
it.
about.
Yeah.
The public is ready. The public is ready to change. And politicians are the ones dragging their feet. And then they're the ones that are standing up and saying, and basically like inflaming their little whatever percent of people that they have.
Right.
Like, oh yeah, gays can't do that because then they'll make us
Texas Republicans
bring pizza to their weddings. And
Texas Republicans are hopping onto this Chuck Norris, who I'm pretty sure is senile. He's like 107. And
God, he looks good though. God, Chuck Norris is still a fucking monster.
Yeah, he can still kick my ass. He and all these like Ted Cruz, I think, were endorsing this idea that the government is down there doing this training exercise.
Have you heard about Jade Helm?
Jade Helm, there's a huge war simulation.
They're coming to put martial law in Texas.
They're coming to do martial law and take our guns away.
Bryan, did you know they closed 2 Walmarts in Texas? And that's where the FEMA camps are going to be. Little inside tip for you guys.
At Walmart?
In the camping
God,
section.
doesn't that figure? Like the FEMA camps are going to be Walmarts.
Like, hey, bad news, you're going to a FEMA camp and we're taking your guns, Bryan.
Yeah.
All worst news, it's inside a fucking
all the
Walmart.
Walmart, the new Auschwitz. Like,
all the merchandise is
gone.
All that's left is the yellow smiley faces on the wall, just haunting your every dream.
This is the other reason why.
This
is the other reason why I wish people would just spend like a month in the military, because they would stop fearing the military. Like this giant,
such a bureaucracy,
giant bureaucratic entity, man. And they're like, oh yeah, SF is gonna like kick in your doors and take your guns.
No.
And first off, man, like it's this idea that we're all a bunch of sheep in the military. So like if my company commander was like kick in that door and take his guns, I'd be like, no, dude, like no. And I'm not gonna tell my guys to do that either. Like it would never happen. So this idea that like someone with an iron fist says go take their guns, and it's like let's go to Texas and take their guns. Like no, that's not happening.
It would never ever happen. They would never go to someone's door and confiscate their firearms, which is this fantasy that you, Bryan, and your buddies are always running through your head. Now, I know your argument is slippery slope, right? Yeah. Slippery slope.
Well, but there's a historical precedence. If you look at societies who start disarming their citizens throughout history, it's always ended badly for those citizens.
No. That's where you go wrong. You have some very good examples of when it has gone badly.
Yeah.
You can't say always.
Well,
Australia had a mass shooting in the 90s. The public was so horrified by it, they voted for a candidate who would ban all guns. Australia had tons of guns. And the people voted for this guy. They repealed whatever thing. You can't own a gun there anymore. Hasn't been a mass shooting since. And people generally approve of this action. Same thing has happened in France, England. There were times when you could buy guns in those countries. But there was a mass shooting in Scotland. either in the 80s or 90s, and everyone was horrified, and they said, we got to get these fucking guns off the street. They did it, and there's only been like one mass shooting since, and it was like 3 people.
Well, and these historical examples, they were never armed near to the degree that the U.S. is armed today.
No.
Like Germany confiscating guns in the late 30s is not the equivalent of if we had to confiscate guns.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Like, fuck, your house alone would
The
take
size
you
of
3
the
weeks,
country,
Bryan.
the population.
I'll say this, okay? I think when you give me a lot of these indictments that kind of make me sound like a psycho on the fucking podcast, we're talking about the hot-headed, still woefully uninformed me of about 2 years ago before I started really the midlife crisis and doubt came into my life like on a permanent and constant basis.
Yep.
So
it sucks.
No, it doesn't. It's fucking liberating because you lose
a
a lot of these goofy ideas like Nick is talking about where you're all afraid of things, and I'm not.
That's why I look up to you, because I miss my ideological fervor where I knew every answer to everything, because I had read like 6 or 7
Life's
books.
a lot
Well, brother,
easier.
when an
you
issue-
go to bed at night and you're like, oh, I'm going to heaven. Man.
I got
It's
it
good.
all down.
As opposed to now you're like, man, am I really just going to like rot forever? Like, fuck, that's depressing as shit. You're like, man, that's gonna be a harsh way
Like,
to
really?
go. But, like,
Rot forever?
Yeah, like I'm just gonna be in a box for eternity. Like eternity.
Never gonna see
minute.
grandma
You
again.
know, but everything still starts
Probably
that
not.
way for me. When an issue comes up, I have the fucking answer right away. I'm ready to throw down. But in the last 2 years, I've tempered it, and I've looked at the situation better. And I'm anti. I'm not going to say I'm anti anything anymore. I'm not like anti confiscation. I'm pro Second Amendment, and I have my reasons for being that way. But they're not the same psychotic ones that they were 2 years ago. Like I
brought up
fucking
Australia as the example.
Yeah.
A, Australia's an island. B, Australia's full of criminals. The thing is, if you take guns away, the only people that are going to have guns is criminals.
Right.
But if you take them all away from the criminals, then nobody has them.
Well, that's what you would do here too if you took the guns
No.
away.
Well, I
You
think
would-
what he's
you would-
saying
America
is
was
on
not based on a criminal society.
as far as we know.
This
America
whole-
didn't-
Mark,
I would
this is
contend that we
very-
were another
this-
British
this
penal
whole-
Hey,
colony,
man,
but-
criminality is in your genes.
Yeah, right.
It
This
is.
whole prison colony thing in Australia is pretty. I think we're pretty much. I think they're fairly civilized over there, Mark. They're not.
Yeah.
Like,
and maybe we're the same thing. We just won, so we get to write our own history. We were probably a British penal colony too.
yeah. Well, it started with the Puritans, and then there were various waves of immigration from various places, mostly from England at first, and then
But this country was built on the gun.
yeah, for sure.
That's how we defeated the Native American and stole half our fucking land, and it's how we saved the world in World War II. They actually call the M1 Garand the rifle that saved the world.
I don't know if they would have made the Second Amendment if they had assault rifles back then.
They did have assault rifles back then. They were called muskets.
Yeah, and it took you a minute to load
Yeah,
it.
the technology
Meaning
changed
in
that. The
And
M4 is
if you were more than 20 feet away, I was probably gonna miss.
the
Like,
M4 is the
I think
modern
they were
musket.
pretty
though.
accurate, bro.
No, until they had the rifle
No.
barrel, like you were
Rifling,
Oh,
they
shit.
fucking never knew what that bullet was going to do, bro. It was all over the
That
place.
thing was
You're
all
right.
over the place.
But it
They
was
had
so
to put
long,
spin
it
on
looks
it
like
and-
an accurate weapon, but you're right.
But it's the M4 is just the modern musket, man.
Okay.
Nobody's coming in here, bro. That's why you don't have to worry about this shit. We don't have to worry about foreign invasion. You're gonna never get down a fucking street without taking fire.
You see, that's what's
Yeah,
funny
there
to
was
me.
that
is I think,
the Japanese general.
like, I think
quote.
Yamamoto,
we've
I
run
think
out
his
of
name
was.
things to fear, so we're like fearing things that don't
Yeah,
exist.
that's a very
Like
good
your
point.
average American, like, does not fear a foreign invasion. You know what I mean? You don't feel.
they don't have to.
But look at the
no,
shows
but
they
this
watch.
is my point.
The
So-
Walking Dead, the zombie fantasy.
So
It's
here's the
all
thing.
we're thinking.
Here's the thing. So my kid will grow up. He will never have to fear a foreign invasion. No one's invading America with our naval and air power. Like, it ain't happening. He's never gonna have to probably fear any sort of like violent coup d'etat, like any sort of violent overthrow of the
Military
government.
coup.
It probably ain't gonna happen.
Probably not.
Like, but these are things that if he had been born in Pakistan, or if he had been born in fucking pick any country in that or even down like South
It could be a
America
reality.
or Southeast Asia, like, they fucking fear that shit constantly because they've lived through 3 of them. You
That's
know what I mean?
point,
so they're sitting there going,
so
we could be. So
in other words,
they're not
we're
worried
just
about
like
their.
that.
So their military does a training exercise, and they're like, fuck yeah, because that's going to prevent this other stuff from happening. We don't have those fears, so we're sitting here going like, ooh, something's happening down in Texas. Yeah. Our military is not the one to fear. Trust me, man. Like, we're not taking your guns. Yeah. No one is taking your guns in our military. It's not happening. Like, they're training because when the shit does hit the fan, you could be glad they got that training, man, because they're going to go do some shit. They're not invading Texas. Bumfuck nowhere, Texas.
Well, they're not coming.
You wouldn't just do one state while the rest of the states look on with the internet, where there's videos of the army going house to house and taking guns. Everyone would be able.
See, and that's what I want to say. They're not coming to take guns. And you know who made a good point about this was Arnie last night.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was, because we were in a discussion where I was arguing against humanity, and Arnie was actually arguing for it. Very weird thing.
People take on roles when other people...
So, but Arnie brought up an interesting point, and I'll tell you why guns aren't going anywhere, is because of the industry itself. That same thing that Nick brought up before about jobs. Remington employs a shit ton of people where they're at. Oh, yeah. They don't want to lose those jobs. That town will die. Secondly, and I thought of this after he left, people think, oh, the race car industry is just a waste of money. And I told Christine, I said, you know that they're testing everything there. They're testing tires, they're testing performance, they're beating the shit out of car engines so that they can figure out how to make them run harder and better for longer so that your car's better.
Innovation.
So it's driving this whole industry. Now, the gun industry, we got guys fighting wars, but they have a whole nother group of people to test on. They can improve weapon systems and technology and safety in real time by putting it out in the civilian market. We also help develop that industry. And what industry drives America right now more than war? This is another, I'm starting to think of the gun issue as another wag the dog thing, where they keep putting it in our fucking face so that me and you can keep talking about this stupid shit on the podcast. I'm almost for not bringing up guns on this fucking show anymore because we're helping them wag the dog while they pull other wool over our eyes and pull bullshit in the background. So, we're talking about guns.
Well, yeah, and
I'm getting fuzzy again.
Yeah, I think actually we're recording. It's that it's not coming through to our headphones because the headphone machine is down here. So you guys talk while I fix that.
Okay.
Yeah, because people always forget about the gun industry, and it's like people look at the NRA. The NRA isn't some grassroots
No, those are rich guys,
campaign. Man, that is the lobbying arm of the fucking gun industry. Like, the gun industry makes a ton of money, and
keep it on. We're
and so I find it funny that people
plus
think
the NRA
that we're just gonna come fucking.
Well, that's what he was just saying. They're just the lobbying arm of the gun industry.
Of the gun industry, and no one's coming to take guns. Like, I just don't foresee.
I feel sorry for the people who read those emails and go out and buy shitloads of guns and ammo because Obama got elected. I honestly
best gun salesman ever.
I'm like, you just spent so much money. I'm like, you're a working class dude, and you just spent so much money. Like, I understand if you're an enthusiast and you just want to spend money on something awesome.
Then you have to wonder the other side of it is it the gun industry that puts out this fear mongering? Because
hell yeah,
drive up the prices.
A ton of money when they do.
Hell yeah, they do.
You know what I mean? So if you're the gun industry, you're gonna be like, yeah, Jade Helm, man, like SF dudes, bearded guys are gonna fucking come through your window.
You don't have to necessarily be.
You're like, fuck, I'm gonna go buy 5 more. Like, why not?
You don't have to be a dummy to believe it either. I don't think people are stupid. They have this tiny circumference of information that they take in. So they get these mass emails with giant 24 font red letters that say, "Oh, bummer is taking," and they read this stuff every day. And those things.
Thanks, Grandma.
Just like those.
Thanks for forwarding that to me, Grandma.
Yeah. Just like those fake news sites will just come up with stories that are false. They'll be like, Obama proclaims on TV that guns are being confiscated, and people will 74-year-old people will read that and be like, that's a fact. The president is literally.
You gave some good advice about that the other day, though, and I click on these articles, and if I see it, I immediately go. If it's 24 font and it's in red, it's bullshit, man. It's not fucking journalism.
If it's in Comic Sans, I'm like, all right, bro, I'm gonna go ahead and doubt your journalistic integrity for a second.
If you don't have to enlarge your screen to read the font, it's bullshit.
Actually, let's pause. We're back, part 2 of episode 10 with Nick Richardson, This is going great, guys. We're going to try to lighten it up a little bit. I don't know why I said that, because the next thing we're going to talk about is Israel. It's the last thing from lighting. But we were talking about Anthony. I was watching Anthony Bourdain's That Parts Unknown show, and like you were saying, it's awesome, right? Because it's about food, so there's that fun part. But then he always gets into the politics and the culture that he's in. And he went to Israel.
And he trains jiu-jitsu.
He does, I think. Yeah, and his
Blue
wife
belt.
does too.
I'd fucking tap him out.
Oh,
Obviously.
yeah, just let it happen, bro.
I don't know. Maybe we should just abandon that subject right off the bat. But
If we're going to lighten it up, we should.
yeah.
This is a bummer.
So we shouldn't talk about anything I wanted to talk about either. 'Cause
What did you want to talk about?
Oh, the Dakota
Native
Wars,
American-
the fucking Apache Wars.
Okay,
like,
let's
that's-
lighten it up by talking about American genocide.
No, that's what I'm saying. We can't talk about that either. I mean,
right.
it's not football season yet. I don't know what to do.
All right. Our new segment is Paper of the Week. If you guys don't know, I work for a company. I write academic papers for college students and master's students. And
John
PhD.
Berger, high morals, professional cheater.
I'm a professional cheater. I'm not the cheater, but I facilitate the cheating. So I do this.
Hey, man, you don't know what they do with those papers. Maybe they read them and learn
They
and
just
then
want
write
it.
their own.
They just want it for knowledge.
Yeah, they're just
personal
you know,
edification.
Sort of an outline, kind of.
And I communicate with these people through messages. It's all anonymous, of course, on both sides. But I get a feel for what kind of people they are a lot of times. And a lot of them are foreigners. And they've made it into like a master's and like an MBA program, like a business master's program. And they don't speak English. But they're in a master's program in like Utah or something, and so they need help. And I did one guy's entire master's degree, so it took a matter of weeks because he gave me every assignment that in the syllabus for the whole semester and the final paper, which was like 38
So what do you
paper.
actually have a master's in that you're not getting credit for now?
I have a master's in business.
Nice, John.
Based on the coursework that I've done.
Let me get a pound on that.
So, and like 7 other things. But anyway, this segment of the show is Paper of the Week.
So you're like an unofficial auditor
Yeah.
of all classes.
Every subject.
Like you get the knowledge, you're just not getting any.
I write on everything except the sciences, and I've done a few little biology papers and stuff, but I don't do the sciences. And there's a lot of nursing work on there too, and I never take that because it's really hard and specific. And
Let
Plus,
that let that fucker do their
Yeah,
own
I was gonna
work.
say
That's-
I would message him back and be like, "Hey, you should probably know how to do this."
Yeah.
like there's really no
Stay on point, bro.
Yeah,
Peace
well,
out. Yeah.
like if I'm letting kids get English literature degrees that they don't deserve, it's not going to kill anyone.
No.
They're not going to put the wrong amount of glucose in the fucking
Yeah,
IV.
no.
like-
let them weed out the sorry ass nurses.
Some
But you-
freshman's going to get
you
a
said
bad
it's
interpretation
anonymous.
of Huck Finn.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Like, so you don't have an email address, or you don't have a...
There's a
account?
website. There's a home. And
So you go through like a proxy server or something.
Okay.
yeah, the company that I work for has a website, and I'm a writer, so I log in and I go to take orders, and there's a queue or a line of orders that can be chosen, and they show you how much they pay, how many pages, what's the assignment, how many sources do you need, and then you pick the ones you want. I'm an independent contractor, so
my question I was getting to is, so you can't blackmail someone later on after they get their degree. You couldn't go like, "Hey, you know what?
nope.
I did your whole entire course for you. I've got evidence of it. We've got emails we exchanged. If you don't cough up another $1,000, I'm going to go to your school."
And that's
say,
why my company is successful, because they protect both sides from that. So I have like published work out there that's under someone else's name that I wrote. I mean, because I've done theses and dissertations. Anyway, paper of the week this week, and to answer your question, no, all I have is a number for the client, and all they have is a number for me. I'm writer 4019. Always have and always will, man. I cracked 300 papers like a couple weeks ago, so I've done 300 major. Some of them are 25 pages. Some of them are 2, but I've
Did you
written.
ever slack off on any of them?
Yes, I've done a bad job a few times, Mark.
Did you ever get
I generally get great feedback, like, "Oh, you got a 97. I got a 97 on it. Thank you so much, man." Like I do good work, but I've been drunk at night, and
And you've got feedback from someone going, "Hey, I failed that."
yeah, well, they can request a revision if they don't like what you did under certain circumstances. and some people are just assholes, and they're like, I can't. I'm not going to get into it, but yeah, I've written some poorly done papers before, but not like bad. I mean, I don't sound like an idiot out there. But I learned my job is awesome in a way. It's ethically not admirable, my job, and I don't like it ethically, to be quite honest. What I do, not happy about it, but I learned so much. I mean, how many papers did I write in my 4 years of college, and then I did a master's for 1 year? How many papers did I write in that time? Probably like 25 or 50 or 70 maybe. I've written 350 for this company already. It's my full-time job. I don't make a lot, but I get by when I hit those papers hard every day, Monday through Friday. So the paper of the week was bloodstain pattern analysis, basically Dexter. So they gave you like 15 graphic crime scene photos of blood stains on the wall and the people that had shot themselves, and there's dead people in the pictures, quite mutilated in some cases. So I had to look up online all these academic sources and studies about bloodstain pattern analysis, had to learn the terminology, and the assignment was to classify each of these crime scene photos, what type of bloodstain it was. And there's things that the bloodstains tell you, like if it has that teardrop shape and it's on the wall, like a glob of blood, and it has that teardrop shape, the small part of the teardrop is the trajectory that that it came from.
Right.
So you learn all these things like that, and man, I don't know why. I just wanted to mention it because I want people to know how weird these papers are, man. I was staring at crime scene photos like all day and learning this whole science. And
so, what was that person? What was their?
They were, I think,
studying?
Probably forensics or something like.
Oh, what was the degree?
Yeah,
criminal justice.
Criminal justice.
Yeah. Oh, I was a criminal justice major, and I never.
You never did that?
Analyze bloodstains. No.
Really?
I just read a bunch of hippie books about how we were keeping the fucking black man down. Wow. That was the majority of my
U
degree.
of A?
No, at Northern Arizona.
Oh.
Maybe that person's gearing themselves up to go more towards forensics.
Yeah, that's more of a technical. Criminal justice is more like
but you always wonder.
Broken window theory, sort of fucking.
If the windows are broken.
Oh, and boy, did we talk about private prisons, which I know you had mentioned.
Well, you
earlier,
should.
Like,
that should be coming.
That's one of those plagues on the nation.
But you could be helping a psycho like get away with. How do I conceal my blood spatter?
Yeah. Because then I did. My first instinct was to take this information and fantasize about how I would get away with a murder. It's interesting that you mentioned that.
The first thing you should have done is
it's interesting that you mentioned that, you fucking weirdo.
You should have gone to De Brazil and looked at the walls and traced all of the blood spatter on the fucking walls of De Brazil. Because I know I've left more than a little bit of blood.
No, stop. We try to recruit people for this. When you talk about blood spatter walls, Nick's actually making that up. If anyone's considering taking jiu-jitsu, and don't be discouraged.
We can do anger management with Bryan Richter, but maybe we'll just wait on that. You can think of one.
All right.
Think of a good one.
No, I got a few.
And
I've always got one loaded.
We should do my beef with beef.
Yeah,
this
beef
week
with beef. Because I kind of started this beef, didn't I?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I started it, but you.
And as long as we've used the word beef a bunch of times, I also in this beef pretty much sided with beef.
Yeah.
Especially about the analogy that you didn't want to allow.
Okay, I'm not. I don't.
I'm sure it'll come up because I know he knows what I'm talking about.
The analogy. Oh, the rape victim.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the subject. We're talking about free speech. I started this off by you guys in the audience all know about this shooting in Texas, where a anti-Muslim group headed by a woman named Pamela Gellers,
or Geller one.
She runs this group, anti-Muslim group, and they are listed as a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center, and but not by any state agencies or federal agencies. They're not listed as a hate group. So there's that. Interpret that as you will. Because of, I think, in response to the Charlie Hebdo shootings in France by the Islamist gunmen. She sponsored a Draw Muhammad, cartoon contest with a cash prize, and rented out a convention center. And then these two guys from Phoenix that were roommates, Phoenix, Arizona, came down and tried to shoot the place up. They shot a security guard in the ankle, and then two very astute cops. I think they described him as traffic cops, but
he was off duty.
Off duty
is what I heard.
Yeah.
That was what I heard. Yeah, he was off duty. 60 years old, about to retire.
Oh wow! And this guy was a boss, and with a handgun,
45 caliber Glock,
took out both dudes carrying assault rifles
and was moving.
Assault
And
rifles
body armor.
And body armor.
I'm not sure they had assault rifles, and nothing that I read says they did either. There was a rifle there, but it looked like a weird little 22. But I'll say this: he confronted two guys with rifles. He was moving forward the whole time.
Boss.
And they had body armor on.
Yeah, and he was moving like, dude, he moved forward towards them the whole time.
He must have gotten headshots.
He started at 25 meters and he finished at about 7.
So, what I said on Facebook, and I totally understand where I was kind of the aggressor.
I was so happy that I got to call you on something for once, because you usually bring me back to reality.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I brought you back to reality, but I wanted to be like, John, I'm like,
So
what are you doing here?
Let's tell them what we're talking about. What I posted was hate groups killing hate groups. That's something I can get behind. That's a trend I can get behind. So I was talking about the Pamela Geller's anti-Muslim hate group getting shot up by ISIS guys, hate group. And I said, basically the idea was, they're both assholes to me, so let them kill each other.
Which I don't have a problem with at all.
Yeah,
Right.
you liked that post originally.
Yeah, I think I did too. For the record, I don't necessarily disagree with you.
No, I know. Because, see, like on paper, me saying that is fine and correct, but I know where it goes wrong, too. And so your criticism was that...
Well, I said what bothers me about this whole situation is that the liberal people that I know, my really liberal friends, are kind of acting like this is okay because they don't agree with the message that the people who got shot at are delivering. And my point is that when these ISIS guys, when they shoot up a fucking school, you're not going to be singing the same song. It's fucked up that that's the song you're singing now. Because if the circumstances were just a little different, you'd be screaming for gun control, you'd be screaming for this or that, and you'd be all up in arms. Like, why was Charlie Hebdo so awful? Because they were liberal people drawing Muhammad? And then this is kind of okay because they were really conservative, also kind of hateful people drawing Muhammad. That you can't have that shit both ways. That's fucking hypocritical.
But, okay,
and not just you, but because I don't think you were justifying it, but I know people who kind of were.
Yeah, but
There's a
and that's what was
big,
bugging
huge,
me.
complex issue with that though, because so my problem.
Well, but then he retorted by saying they were asking for it.
Right. He said they brought it on themselves.
I said they brought it on.
And my problem was with that, and other people saying the same thing, but then also people screaming about, and it's screaming, people typing a lot on the internet about it was not protected speech because it's hate speech. And it was not,
I never saw those posts.
I saw a lot of them. And it was tied into Charlie Hebdo because there was something, it was in Europe, there was some kind of benefit or some kind of award ceremony, and they awarded, so they gave some awards to Charlie Hebdo. And there were some people that pulled out of that ceremony pre that happening because they knew it was going to happen, and they didn't want to support it. They thought that the Charlie Hebdo stuff was hate speech as well, and they didn't want to support it. And then I forget who it was, one of the people that was there that was like, someone big actually, like Steve Carell or somebody like that, basically said that it is free speech because you don't need to protect unhateful, unoffensive speech.
Well, that's a good point.
I mean, what? Oh, you want to say grandma loves ice cream? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's not what the First Amendment's for, not to protect stuff like that.
Right.
That's
no
true.
One's gonna be
It's to protect
It's
speech,
to protect
unpopular
stuff that's
speech.
unpopular, offensive speech.
So that the minority
I
group
never
has
thought
a
about it
voice.
like that.
Right. I mean, what other kind of speech do you need to protect?
Right.
So, but of course, I never I never said that any speech should be. All I did was.
You kept linking them in with hate groups.
Well,
you kept saying that.
What do you mean linking? They are one.
Well, according to
but let me ask you this, and I brought this point up, and if you have information to the contrary, please let me know. Because as far as I know, none of her people have ever committed crimes or acts of violence or terrorism.
No, that's correct.
So that's what I was saying. I'm like, so are they? They're not a hate group like ISIS is a hate group.
That's a terrorist organization.
Yeah. Okay. So they're not a hate group like the Hammerskins are a hate group.
I don't know.
They go out thumping people with hammers. Yeah, they're a hate group on the FBI's website. The Hammerskins are.
Yeah, this
not a hate group in the same
this
way.
anti-Muslim group, and any time it's called the American Freedom Defense Force, so it's a fucking hate group. I'm sorry, but okay, you know what? The terminology.
I'm not even going to deny that they are.
The terminology is fluid. None of us can say what a hate group is and what isn't.
Right.
There's entities out there that make those calls.
But that's not what we were arguing about, really. We weren't. I don't think we were ever in disagreement that these are people saying hateful things. These people
suck.
Yeah, they're saying hateful things. They're not people that we would probably hang out with.
I'm not
they're
saying
ideological, anti-Muslim.
Right. But that's not what. But my problem again is anyone saying that this speech, because it's hate speech, is not protected by the First Amendment.
Yeah, I agree with you.
If you say that,
it is protected.
I think you don't understand our Constitution.
Here's what bums me out about this is if these guys hadn't gone and shot up this thing, you would have never heard about it. It would have been a non-issue.
Right.
So here's what they were trying to do. They were trying to instigate it. They wanted
that
a
was
fucking
my
event.
Point. Wait. Let me just say, this is my thing in a succinct point, right? I can say two things at the same time without contradicting myself. One, this group brought this attack on themselves through their actions. Thing two, the gunmen are 100% responsible for their crime and then getting shot by the cops. They are 100% responsible for the bad thing, and that hate group brought the crime on themselves by sponsoring a Draw Muhammad contest. I think I can say those two things, and they're not mutually exclusive.
Okay,
except for when it's almost always when someone says, blah, blah, brought this on themselves, then what you do...
Give them your analogy, bro. You got to get that in there.
Is you give the person that committed the crime, you give them a defense. And you say, they didn't know what they were doing, they couldn't help themselves, they blah, blah, whatever. Well, it's not their fault.
That's the legal system.
That they did.
I don't know what lawyers can argue, but that's not my concern. I'm just trying to get.
But that is my concern.
Okay, so let me.
But then you're not saying that I'm wrong that they brought it on themselves. You're just saying it could be used to help the people. I'm shooters.
Saying you're wrong.
Oh,
because
they didn't bring it on. There's no such thing as instigating or provoking an act.
No, because it's like you said about a tiger in the jungle. If you walk out in the jungle, and people say this all the time about animals or forces of nature. If I walk out in the jungle with a stake in each hand, and then I get attacked by a tiger, oh well, what'd you expect? And I would say, yes, I agree with you. If you walk out onto a golf course during a fucking thunderstorm and you stick a giant metal pole up in the air and you get struck by lightning, say, oh, what'd you expect? Yes, I agree with you. It's a force of nature. People, we're supposed to be different. We're supposed to be able to think about what we do and think about why we're doing it.
Take full responsibility.
Take full responsibility for our actions.
Right. And my what I just said was that.
Now, okay, so if I go and I say stuff, say it, talk it, or even if I wear some outfit or do whatever, then if someone violently comes to either, attack and just hurt me or kill me or whatever, I still didn't bring that on myself because whatever I'm doing doesn't warrant that.
But Mark, if you're intentionally angering people out in the street,
you have control of your anger.
I know.
And if you don't, you need to check yourself. But you are in control of your emotions,
that's why,
your anger. If I'm angering you, actually, I'm not angering you. You're angering yourself.
But Mark,
you're thinking about what I do.
You're giving the giving the bad guy.
You're giving me power.
You're giving that bad guy complete power. And
no,
you're giving
actually, I'm
the
not.
Instigator no power.
But otherwise, you're
Go
giving.
ahead, Bryan.
I'm gonna, and I don't know why he didn't just throw this out right away, but I'm gonna go back to Beef's initial argument against your brought it on themselves.
I already know what this argument's gonna be.
Okay, he said that's like saying that the girl who wore the miniskirt brought the rape on herself. And give me a minute to expound on this.
Right.
And I'm gonna tell you why I agreed with him. When my wife dresses up real sexy, she wants some type of reaction. She wants people to look at her. She wants people to think she's pretty. She wants to feel that. That makes you feel good. When those people did that event, they wanted to piss some people off. They wanted to create some waves. They wanted to make a point. But they didn't want to get shot, just like that girl didn't want to get raped. And that's why that analogy does fit, because they did want a reaction, but they didn't want violence as a reaction. I guarantee you, even if they're assholes.
I disagree. I think they wanted violence as a reaction.
You know what,
they
though?
wanted violence. I don't think they wanted to die.
No, let me finish.
I don't think they wanted to die.
I don't either.
They wanted violence.
But just let me finish. I don't think they really did want violence. I think those are fucking keyboard warriors. Those people are keyboard warriors.
Wait, who?
That's the fucking people who were, yeah. They're keyboard warriors, dude. They're not guys who are going to stand on the front line. They're sitting behind.
But Bryan,
because, dude, they hired $50,000 of security. They wanted to sit behind other people with guns.
That proves my point.
That
proves my point. They wanted to instigate a violent attack because that's why they got the security. So they knew that, you're right, no one wanted to get shot.
Right.
So they hired a bunch of security so that when the gunmen came, they would take care of it.
If they came, because they had precedent to believe that they would.
Right.
But you can
And they did the exact thing that instigates that.
It's like saying, why have precedent to believe if I kick you in the balls, you're going to punch me? That's precedent.
But what I'm saying is
it was common.
To say that people
but it's
brought
different.
violence.
If I kick you in the balls, I've attacked you first. It's different than if I kick you in the balls. That's completely different than me saying,
why, Mark?
Your mama sucks. Your daddy's a clown.
An insult hurts too.
Fuck you and you God. Whatever.
Insulting your
no, I'm sorry.
God that's pretty serious. It's not to anyone at this day, but to most people, that's the highest insult you could pay to someone.
I don't think it's unjust to punch someone in the face who's insulting you necessarily. If they keep doing it,
with
they
a
keep
fucking
doing
bullet.
Well, I'm sorry. I disagree.
I'm
with
just
you.
saying. He's saying there's a fundamental distinction between offense and
sticks and
physical
stones
violence.
break my bones. Words will never hurt
look,
me.
if I could just finish,
Just if you're an unevolved retard, then you're going to get upset. You can want violence. I could want violence every day. The people that watch the Floyd Mayweather fucking Pacquiao, they wanted violence, right? People want violence every fucking day.
But
people,
Mark, this is a hate group.
There are people
goes
that
on Fox
go to a
News
bar
and says Islamists are in America and they're dangerous. This is an extreme right anti-Muslim hate group who goes on all the time saying these things. That's what this woman makes money on. That's what she cares about. And so to instigate a physical attack on American soil by someone connected with ISIS is that very thing she wants. She wants the rest of the country to be afraid.
It doesn't matter. Dude, okay, a 21-year-old, hothead, wants to make a fucking reputation for himself. Goes to a bar every fucking day and insults somebody because he wants to get in a fight. Okay? Eventually, he insults the wrong person. He goes outside. They shoot him.
You hold no culpability on that guy at all.
Really? Because he insulted people.
Yeah, and you're saying he has nothing. There's nothing.
Oh no!
He didn't bring it on himself.
No, he didn't. He did not bring a fucking bullet into his brain on himself. He was an idiot. The brought it on himself again. You're saying that the person who shot him had no responsibility.
Wait a minute, Mark.
No,
he actually started.
He actually started by saying that these people instigated it, and that these guys were 100% responsible for their actions. That's how he started.
But again, you can instigate things,
right. But if instigating means I'm drawing a fucking cartoon, or I'm saying your God sucks, or blah. No, that's a very big difference.
Then the analogy I gave
than even having a face-to-face in a bar.
My problem is that people defend free speech when it's an issue they like, and then they don't defend
it.
And
that should be not there. You should defend free speech always.
And
it's free speech that you don't fucking like.
Mark, I was reacting to the people who were celebrating free speech in this instance because they don't like Muslims. I was reacting to them. They're saying, this is free speech, but those same guys, if someone stamps on the American flag, they get upset. And you're not that guy. You are across the board.
They're just as stupid. Yeah. Anyone who fucking is going to get upset about someone jumping on an American flag or pissing on it or whatever is fucking just as dumb as someone that's going to get pissed off about someone drawing Muhammad or saying Reagan sucked dick.
The rape analogy,
or fucking whatever you want to think about.
The rape analogy doesn't work because there is no scientifically proven. There's no scientifically proven correlation between how you dress and getting raped. I think that's a myth.
There's a scientific correlation between talking shit and getting killed?
Drawing Muhammad and getting killed. There's a statistical correlation.
They've done scientific studies.
Eventually, I'm going to finish what I was saying. I promise I will.
All right, go ahead.
I agree with you that there's an instigator. You can instigate something, but you're not. And when you say they're saying, oh, there's Muslims in this country and they're dangerous, or there's jihadists in this country and they're dangerous, I would kind of counter that with saying, aren't they kind of right? Didn't they just get proved right that there are these dangerous jihadists in the country, and that if you do something like this, they're going to come out and shoot it up? I mean, didn't she kind of prove her point?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So here, yeah. I mean, she's fucking right. Whether you like what she said or not, she's fucking smug as shit right now because she was right. She said, we're going to put up this contest, and somehow they're going to come after us, and I hired security, and security took care of business, but they did exactly what I thought they were going to do.
Yeah,
like, she went bass fishing and caught a lunker.
That's a self-fulfilling prophecy,
yes,
though.
Yes,
That's like me saying, oh, guess what? If I accumulate enough weapons in my fucking living room, TPD's going to come pay me a visit.
Right.
And so I fucking flaunt it, and I make a big deal of it. Hey, TPD, I got a fucking
1,000
weapons. And then they come pay me a visit, and I go, see, told you.
Yeah.
Told you they were going to fuck with me.
And I get that. But what I'm in agreement with Beef about is it does apply because it still brought it on themselves for what they were doing. And we're talking about drawing pictures. It's not like they were flogging a Muslim. They were drawing pictures, man.
But Brian, that's what everyone says. That's what Joe Rogan says. Okay. Drawing pictures. Because drawing pictures has no effect on us. But that's a specific thing.
I get this,
for
John.
Muslims.
I'm going to get there. If somebody would just let me finish, I'm going to get there. I get that it's a huge insult, and I'm with you. I've said at work to my boss, before I'm your employee, I'm a fucking man first. There's lines you can't cross, and I wanted to warn you that you're standing on one. Because I'm with you. I'll punch you in the fucking face. I will. I'll throw down, and there's reasons for that. And if you insult me, it is a reason to get socked up sometimes. Right. It is. I will fucking throw down. If you dishonor me enough with your mouth, you're eventually going to have to put your money where your fucking mouth is.
And I get morality, that's the ultimate sin.
Right.
You've crossed the ultimate line.
Well, you can't tell me no, because that's my belief. But what I'm saying is...
No. I'm saying, you telling me that that's my morality, that's wrong.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that I understand reality. I understand if I talk shit enough, someone's going to punch me. I understand all those things. But guess what? It's still against the law. So if you talk shit to me and I lose my cool and I punch you, then there's going to be repercussions on me. And if you punch me back and kick my ass, or if the cops get called and I go to jail, guess what? That's what happens.
So what?
So that's what my defense is. The people I'm pissed off about, and the reason I'm even talking about this issue,
the law?
Is because the people that fucking keep talking about how it's not protected speech. It's unprotected speech. What fucking the Gellers did is not legal. Well, she should have her rights to do that stripped away.
Yeah, but no one's disagreeing with you.
And
well, there's lots of people on the internet that were disagreeing with me, and that was my point.
Well, that wasn't even part of that thread.
I'm not saying you were.
And what I'm saying, though, is that I also agree with him that it is that fucked up speech that we don't want to hear that is protected by the First Amendment. And whether you agree with what she said or not, she should have the right to say it.
I agree.
I don't agree with it.
I agree, but now look back to my original post and find where I said that she should be legally.
No, I don't.
Like I said, it was because you said brought it on themselves, which is exactly the same reasoning that these people that are clamoring for her to have her freedom of speech rights stripped, they've said the same thing.
Well,
they say she brought it on herself. Like they're
yes, they are, but it doesn't make that any less true. So you can't, because you hate them using it that way, you can't deny that it's true that she brought it on themselves just because you don't like how they're using that.
Okay, so what I'm saying
it's
is
still true that she brought it on themselves.
It might be true, but it's not a defense.
No,
it's not a defense for them.
It's not a defense.
They're
100% culpable.
So why even say it,
John?
Because I don't like them. They're a hate group.
Exactly.
They suck.
And so you hate them.
John.
You don't like them.
Go ahead.
They're hate.
My original point, which I'm still going to stand by, is that they brought it on themselves, but nobody said that about Charlie Hebdo. Nobody fucking said that. There was universal agreement that it was a horrible act, and nobody said it.
But
So
it's different because they mocked everyone.
Okay,
they were a literary magazine.
All right,
it's a different context.
Aren't we getting into semantics though? There.
No, because I don't have a problem with a group that makes fun of everyone equally. I do have a problem with a hate group. I find that person dangerous.
But I think in the end they both got shot at for the same reason.
Yeah, those fucking Islamists are crackers. They're nuts. They're bananas.
Okay, so then while we're sitting here, then we have to say, if we're being absolutely realistic and nobody's letting their feelings into it, that Charlie Hebdo also brought it on themselves. And that's a fucked up thing that's a fucked up thing to say, right? Do you want to say that? Because if we say that about Geller, then I feel like with this approach to thinking that you fucking introduced me to, by the way, then we have to say it about Charlie Hebdo, and I don't want to fucking say it about Charlie Hebdo, so I'm not going to say it about Pamela Geller.
Well, the only difference
I'm tired of getting cut by my own sword, John. I'm just tired. I've done it too many fucking times. I have fallen on my own sword for stupid shit that I have said and for idealistic and dogmatic approaches that I've taken, and I'm trying to be better, man.
Here's where I would go with
point.
this. Is this?
That's
so
a very good point.
I'm not near as passionate about this as any of you because
Beef is fucking passionate about this.
Everyone involved in this story was swimming in the shallow end of the gene pool, so I don't really.
Agreed.
So I don't really care about any of it.
Like I said, I don't even disagree with John's initial post. Fucking wail on each other. Here's theme park idea. I was in, dude. When it starts, I will throw in.
Here's what I would say. I think Charlie Hebdo's intentions were different.
Yeah. Easily.
I think you could absolutely say they brought it on themselves. I'd be willing to say that because they should have known ahead of. Here's the thing. They published that to entertain. I think their goal was to entertain and push the envelope a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm not in disagreement with any of that.
This group, their sole intention was to incite.
It's not like they had a magazine that made people laugh.
I will say this: that doesn't let these other dudes off the fucking hook. They absolutely overreact. You never shoot anyone. You never shoot anyone.
You deserve to be dead. I'm glad the cop shot you. He's a hero.
Can we all agree that everybody involved in this?
I'm not disagreeing. All I was doing was trying to take it deeper.
Fucking lost
because of what we do here.
Was right.
And just say, can we really have it both ways if we're talking about the First Amendment?
Right.
Because I never thought about what he said until he got in here about the First Amendment is here to protect the shit that's offensive, that's awful, that we don't want to hear. That's why it's here. You don't have to protect.
I wish we had someone here who was up against the First Amendment.
Here's what I would say.
None of us are.
Well, there's plenty of people that are, and even say they are until they actually start thinking about it.
PC culture,
and that's the difference between the main difference between the thing in Texas and Charlie Hebdo for me is the thing in Texas was in the U.S. The thing in Charlie Hebdo is in France. I don't know what France is. If they have a First Amendment, I don't know what their rights are.
Right.
So I'm not going to argue about that because I don't know if they're protected. They maybe aren't. But I'm saying in the U.S., you have supposedly that protection. Right? That's what people say. That's what you're fucking, since you were born, you've been told about this Bill of Rights.
Well,
of course, now you're betraying libertarianism to the greatest degree ever.
Radical agnosticism is tough.
Because you're saying the government is the thing that protects these rights.
No, exactly. And this argument is I'm coming from it completely from a legal standpoint.
But it's not a legal argument, Mark. We're having a moral argument.
Yeah, I would say this: if we're coming at it from an emotional standpoint, here's what I would say.
All of this is morality.
Here's what I would say: your free speech should never cause you to get shot.
Yes,
but the degree to which I'm sympathetic for you getting shot is directly proportionate to how much you fucking ask for.
There it is.
And if you were walking down the street and someone shoots you in the head for no fucking reason, I am 100% sympathetic. If you're walking through the street in a fucking Klan's fucking robe and someone shoots you in the head, they shouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
That guy should go to jail.
Yeah, he should get the same punishment.
That guy should go to jail. But I don't feel bad for you, bro.
So by your example, okay? Because what can we say? I'm going to try to make a little bit of just a facsimile. So can we say that Geller and her dipshits, Geller and her dipshits doing this is equivalent to flipping somebody the bird, like fuck you, Islam?
Way worse.
Okay,
way
so
worse.
say way worse.
Way worse.
Yeah, that's Brian. This is sacrosanct to them.
Okay.
You cannot
All right,
put an image of the prophet.
I would say this.
Okay.
I would say this.
I think it's crazy.
Culture, the only reason they did this was because they knew how much it would fuck with them.
Only reason.
Okay,
They offered money to people to do it.
Because I could hold a draw Jesus contest tomorrow and no one would fucking care.
Right.
Because that's not
But
part
you
of the
could have a
culture.
suck Jesus' dick drawing contest.
I could have a burn
or something else that
Jesus in
really
effigy
on Christmas.
So if some extreme right-wing Christians went into an art gallery somewhere that was showing Andre Serrano's Piss Christ, and they shot the fucking place up, you would be sympathetic to the extreme.
No.
You would say.
Answer's no. No sympathetic.
You would say, "Oh, those people at that art gallery
No.
and Andre Serrano,
No.
he brought it on himself." I'm not.
No, it's a good counter argument, but
Those people
it's
are
slightly
still guilty. Whoever did the shooting is absolutely
they're
guilty.
still guilty.
I'm not
100%.
letting them off the hook at all. I'm saying the amount to which I'm sympathetic is based on what you did
and
to incite
in the
them.
Piss Christ
for the
example
for the
is
people-
less severe than the
For
Draw
the people
Muhammad,
who are
but
simply
it's
there to just look at the gallery, I would feel more sympathy. For if the guy who fucking drew it got shot, my sympathy goes down a little bit because he knew he was inciting some shit. You know what I mean? So that's what it comes down to me. Is like I think we can all agree. Everyone.
So Solomon Rushdie, you feel sorry for him? Or?
The shooters were definitely
did
fucking
he earn
wrong.
it? Like, does he deserve it?
the fatwa is gone on him. I think
I know, but my
he's
problem,
allowed to travel.
My problem
around.
then morally is seems to me the people that are against the Texas group, and upset and
calling
saying,
them a
hate group and blah blah blah, they would not say that about Andre Serrano and his Piss Christ. They would not say that about certain other people that talk shit about Christianity or try to blaspheme
This is a
Christ.
group, Mark. That guy's an individual.
Well,
he's not an activist.
He's in a group because he's got an art gallery showing.
He doesn't
his
go
stuff,
on Fox
which
News
is more
and
than one
advocate for other people making images of Christ pissing on himself or whatever. That he doesn't. He
because
just
no one's interviewing him. Maybe if they went and interviewed him, he would say that.
It's a valid counterexample, but it's just
it
doesn't quite reach the drawing Muhammad.
It does reach it because then they say, "Oh, well, see, they're attacking Islam." Then they push and push and push. There's people that push and push and push on Christianity every fucking day.
I just don't
know.
And
the Christians don't react in the same way.
Not now, but during the Crusades, I bet things would have been a little different.
There was a war going on, and both sides.
So part of this is being sensitive to the socioeconomic disadvantage of the people. But these were Americans, so that argument actually doesn't work. These ISIS guys were Americans. I just don't. It's not clear what we're arguing about.
Right.
You don't want. Here's what I think you're saying. You don't want anyone to say anything negative about Geller and her group in the context of this incident.
No. Guess what? You have the right to free speech. You can say anything you want.
Right, but you don't like the implications.
What you can't do is take her right to free speech away.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Her right to free speech. Her right to free speech protects her from the government doing anything to her. It doesn't protect me from saying
the free market.
Fucking
exactly.
Psycho. Like
exactly.
It doesn't protect her from
that doesn't make me anti-free speech for calling her a cunt.
Well, you're not taking away her right to free speech by doing that.
Right. And I don't plan.
That's how you counter.
All I did is call her.
That's how you counter speech that you disagree with is with your speech.
Yes.
Right, and that's what. That's how far I would have taken it.
If your speech is trying to get the government to take her speech away. Yeah. Then you've crossed the line.
No, you're right. And I don't think anybody here thinks that she should have been silenced.
No.
She absolutely had the right to say what she said.
But I'll say this, Charlie.
And they did not have a right to do what they did. But I have a right to fucking not feel any sympathy for anybody in this case.
I'm not.
I don't know if I got a black heart or what, but like.
And honestly, Charlie Hebdo, Brian, your excellent, rebuke to my your rebuttal which was very good about now I have to condemn Charlie Hebdo as bringing it on themselves. I will say to that, a comic strip of that, if that comic strip were published here in the daily paper, it would be canceled within a week. It was very racist.
Yeah, it was
Black people looked like monkeys in it.
And very much.
It's stuff that we wouldn't. And I don't think they're
the Charlie Hebdo stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
got its comedy out of like instigation and
it was
kinda
all
shitting
religions
on
and
everyone.
he was
Yeah.
kind of making fun of everyone, and then I like that about him.
It wasn't like, oh, they're the New York Times of
No.
France.
So,
and
okay,
they just
so,
drew
but
a
wait,
comic.
Like
all
they
right.
would have had Obama as like an ape, like saying things.
So
like,
what are you saying to me now? They actually did. They did bring it on themselves.
no. All I'm saying is they run contrary to American values and to the values of this table.
What if Blazing Saddles came out today? What do you think people would go to it and
Well,
think it was a funny movie?
still lost.
No.
Or
Don't
do you think
leave
people would
yet.
be like, "This is offensive as hell"?
all of that Eddie Murphy
don't-
raw, delirious, calling them
Wait.
faggots, nothing like. We wouldn't have that today.
We got to go back, man. Like what? So then, what was your? And I don't even want to use the word motivation, but what was your point in telling me that? Because I don't understand why you told me. I don't disagree with you on any level, but I just don't understand.
I don't think I do either.
Why you came back and told me that?
Well, because
I didn't know it.
Well, because your whole point was that Charlie Hebdo is kind of like.
I
We wouldn't
think-
want to say anything bad about them. Like that's a tragedy. They got murdered.
And John was saying that he would say that they kind of brought it on themselves.
Yeah.
Now that he's thought about
that's
it.
what I said.
Well, and
No,
that,
but
that,
it's
that was
not.
my initial point in bringing it up to you on your initial post.
I like them.
No,
I'm just,
let me. I need to clarify this. I don't have any problem with you saying
She's a
Charlie
hate group.
Hebdo or the Texas chick is a hate group, or they brought it on themselves,
Okay.
or any of that stuff.
All right.
I'm fine with you saying all of that.
You disagree, though?
No, I don't disagree with any
Okay,
of that.
good.
I don't actually disagree. I just think
Right.
that if we do that,
But-
then it has to go both ways.
Yeah,
and that's the
You
way.
do?
That's the way we.
My
That's
point
isn't that how
is
what we're doing?
I
Like,
can't
that's
stand
the kind of the-
this flip flop of your ideas and the way you think. And I'm not saying you personally. I'm saying you, the royal you.
Liberals, PC culture?
Anyone.
Okay, go.
How it flip flops their thoughts and ideas depending on who they're talking. about.
Inconsistency.
Yeah. Say like, oh,
Hypocrisy.
well, like you said, like, oh, you're trying to burn a flag? I'll fucking kill you. You know, oh, you're, you know, but if you're a Muslim and someone insults you, it's cool. It's cool for you to want to kill them.
What you're
So
angry at here is liberal, is PC culture, liberalism that's giving Islam a pass where it doesn't give Christianity, it doesn't give a pass to Judaism. It gives Islam a pass, this liberal culture, because they're a minority. They're on the shit end of the rifle right
No,
now.
and I
So
would-
the liberals feel bad.
I would
You're a
agree with that
black
100%.
kid. You're a
If you
black
give them a
kid.
pass for this, like,
Yeah.
you're insane. There's no way you give them
well,
a pass.
I'll say
You're a
that-
black kid, you look at a cop and you start running. And the cops chase you and grab you, throw you in the paddy
Eventually
wagon,
kill you.
and you end up dead.
Yeah.
That's terrible, right?
Yes.
Okay, but say you're in a Muslim country and you're drawing Muhammad and some Muslims see you and you start running away, then they can't go and chase you and kill you. And you know,
To lighten this up a bit, Arnie told me something last night. There was a Muslim
Yeah,
group.
thank God we lined it up after the break.
Yeah, boy, we really lightened that up.
It got real.
We should have thrown out a mat. Like, he said there was and it might have been in America, but it was a Muslim group that held a Draw Muhammad contest because it's a very popular name. So kids came in and drew their friend who was named Muhammad.
Oh. I don't even know what to think about that.
I think that's
You know what it is?
it's almost satire.
No,
right?
here's the thing. Here's what you guys are correctly against in me, is that my post, like I said, on paper,
Right.
we all agree with. And of course, I'm careful because I'm underhanded like that and sinister to make it something that the
motherfucker.
words of which you cannot actually disagree with. But I was expressing a sentiment, a very liberal sort of PC culture sentiment that you guys rightly reacted against, which was that I want to bring the focus back onto this American hate group,
Right.
rather than leaving it where it lies on these insane gunmen.
Right.
Well, and then,
And I understand coming out against that.
well, and then my problem with the whole thing, with both things, with even us talking about it for the last fucking 20 minutes, is no matter what side you're taking, I think it was a fucking false flag, red flag, whatever you want to call it. Where
A hoax?
not a hoax. It's not
Well,
a
that's
hoax.
what a false flag.
Okay, well then
Right.
it's just a situation that arises that the media exploits to get everyone's attention on
Fear.
while other shit goes on,
Yes.
and also to propagate the fucking militarization of the police. Because you either have a hate group who needs to have their rights taken away or their guns taken away,
Or you have
their
ISIS.
ability to assemble, or whatever you want to say that they did wrong and
Right.
they shouldn't be able to. Or you have ISIS, who then now you're fearing and you're thinking they're going to come to your next event,
And-
and you need more police.
I mean,
to fucking help you out.
To the
against them.
conservatives, like Bryan, we had a good response to him, but his point was also really good that it proved her right and that they are here.
Well, no, but that's
Barely.
What
I don't know.
What I was
Barely.
saying,
I don't-
what I
but
was
they
saying
are.
was that she wanted to be proved right.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
That's
dude.
what-
no one was
now,
happy.
Nick, though, come on. We all want to be proved right. Like if you
Yeah,
you
yeah,
have a
but
point
she
to
has an
prove-
agenda. She makes her money off
No,
of
no,
it.
no,
Yeah,
This is
so
her career.
do you, bro. You want to be right because if you're right and people are like, "Fucking John is right," like they're going to start listening to your show.
That's a good point.
And then you're going to get fucking huge. Nick wants to be right because if he answers his interview questions right and he knocks his shit out at the academy and he goes out there and he fucking makes good calls in
be
his
the
in his
chief of
car,
police in 10
yeah,
years.
man, he excels. Beef
But-
wants to be right when he writes this fucking book about punk rock. I want to be right,
But my
no
my
matter
being
what I'm
right,
doing.
Brian, you're
my
coming,
being
you're coming
right does
through
not
hard
involve
today, and
my being
strong.
right does not involve pawns. My being right does not involve the guy getting
Lies.
shot
Well,
and the
yeah.
two guys who are going to spend the rest of their lives in jail.
Because
Like,
there's this
that's
weird
that's
gray
where I
area.
draw the line. It's
Well,
like
There's a
Not-
weird gray
she
area
got-
between being proven right and a self-fulfilling
like
prophecy
if
where
that,
you make
if that
yourself
goes
right.
a little differently, you go from one security guard getting shot in the ankle to a dozen
fucking
people
massacre.
don't get to see their kids again.
Right, I get it, dude.
And that would have been.
And that's don't you so exactly.
I want-
kids
I wanna
dead.
say-
kids dead.
I wanna say that's
and
on
that's not
her.
on her.
No.
at all.
It's on
That's
both.
not
Okay,
on her
can
at
I
all.
Answer, can I answer first?
Kids dead.
Can I answer
Really?
first?
In the grand scheme of
Did
things,
she pull the trigger?
Can I answer
in the
first?
grand-
Did she pull the trigger?
No, it's on
No,
them.
then it's on them. Whoever pulled the trigger
It can't be
is
both.
the one who killed. No.
It can be.
Okay,
I
because
got
then
an
otherwise
example.
you're
It
telling
can
me
be.
I think
that
it would
that
be
when
both.
It can be
I would
both.
vote for both. I would
It
vote
can
for
be both.
90%
when
the guys who pulled the
when
trigger.
the cop killed the other
10%
cop
the other
and the
guy.
bullet went through the person, then that person contributed to the cop being killed because the person had committed.
Well, you could say
he had robbed a fucking Snickers.
okay.
Yeah.
So then
Circle K.
just to throw this
That's
out there,
true, though,
just to
Mark.
throw
It's an
this out
uncomfortable fact that you don't rob stores because you might get shot
Okay,
by the cops.
so-
it's one of the reasons not to rob stores.
So
And
what-
then,
what
and
about
then
this,
they're
though?
responsible for the cop getting killed.
What about this? What if I had been killed in Afghanistan? Did I invite that on myself?
And a lot of
by
liberals
going over
say
there?
that. They're like, why are you guys going over there with guns? What do you expect to happen? Why are you in other people's countries with rifles? What do you expect? They're going to shoot you.
Or
to
is
get
it a
you
little
out.
bit of both? Because this is why I would argue it's a little bit of both.
It is a
Because
little bit of both.
Everybody understands, like, you're going into someone else's country with
Yeah.
guns, like, they're going to fucking shoot at you.
And
It
they
is
might
a little
not,
bit of
like,
both.
You
might
don't,
not
like,
be
someone doesn't
evil
shoot
people.
at you and you don't go like, what the fuck is
and-
that
and-
for?
Like, that's a
you
patriot.
know what that was for.
If they invade us, that's a patriot, is an American who shoots that
Yeah.
foreign force.
And-
or if they're
and-
flying drones over America all day, and you're terrified all the time of France or whatever country it is that's being our overlord.
Here's how I'm going to answer your question. And if anybody's listening, I'm going to tell you guys this: if you take what I take the approach of the show to be in the mindset of it, this whole radical agnostic thing, it's a very hard and fucking confusing place to exist.
It sucks and it's awesome at the same time.
And my whole point was, it is on her, John. I agree with you. I agree with everything you said in your post. And the only point I ever wanted to make was that we can't have it both ways. We can't say Charlie Hebdo's a tragedy and they didn't bring it on themselves and that these people did just because we don't like what they're saying. They're both fucking tragedies. People are dead and they didn't have to be. But
Well, I don't know if I'd say Nick was responsible if he went to Afghanistan and got shot, but I would agree with him that
it's a little bit of both.
politicians us sending troops over there, they have some culpability.
Well, and
they
it's
didn't pull
the
the trigger.
But they did pull the trigger.
So
that's
so
why
it
I'm
can
saying, I'm
be
admitting
both. Yeah.
that I can see that.
I still think I'm the asshole because the post was originally meant to rile, and so
Right.
it was technically correct.
Does anybody
Well,
use
you
Facebook
had just told me the
just
week
to,
before
like,
just to
show
call you on
baby
bullshit,
pictures
so I
anymore?
started to right
Does
away.
anyone just like cat pictures on Facebook anymore? Am I the only guy that's just
I like
on
him every
Facebook
time.
That's just I just like cat pictures and I like funny
I'll tell you
videos?
what, dude. I
and
bet
then I
There was
see
this
these like
hilarious cat video that
I'm
we
just
watched.
scared of confrontation on social media. I'm like, oh no, I
Yeah,
can't
you don't get
involved
into
in that.
anything.
No, he does. He chastises
I-
me all the time.
twice
He
I've
like,
gotten into it.
yelled at me
In
about
serious tones.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
He almost. I thought he was going to all caps me about the fucking hangings in Minnesota.
Nick
That
would
was
never
some,
all
that
caps.
was some fucking bullshit.
I
that
agree.
post.
I agree that once I
That
posted it and I
post.
read the
Which post?
his, not mine.
I thought I was on top of Bryan.
His. So here's
His.
here's what happened. I'll explain the background. So Bryan shared a post from some guy, and he made the claim. So there was this horrible tragedy that occurred from at the time they were called the Dakota tribe. Where I want to say they're Shawnee now, maybe. I don't want to say. Anyways, at the time they were called
It was
the Dakota
Minnesota.
tribe. What had happened was they had started a rebellion.
What year?
Because they were hungry.
Well, they started a perfectly reasonable rebellion.
Yeah,
they
they
had
were
been getting
hungry.
fucked with like most Indians. They've been getting fucked
On the
with.
reservation? What year is this? What time period?
This is in
General.
Minnesota.
Lincoln,
Oh, it's
Lincoln's
Lincoln.
in
It's
Lincoln's in
Civil War.
1860s.
Yeah.
1860s. All right.
So what had happened was
Early.
these guys were sick of getting fucked with, so they started a rebellion. The rebellion got a little out of hand.
They attacked a fort to try to get food.
Well, and then there were some spillover. They killed some fucking settlers. Okay.
So, yeah.
They killed some people who were not.
I can tell you that
military.
exact story. These two braves. They went and they were taking. The one guy was taking eggs, and he said, "You're like those are white man's eggs. Don't take them. There's going to be a problem." And he said, "You're a coward." And the other guy said, "No, I'm not a coward." And he said, "Yes, you are." And the guy said, he went and killed
Yeah,
him.
he
The Indian
right,
killed
so
the
yeah,
white man.
To
Well,
prove
so
he
that-
wasn't a coward. He killed everyone in the
that's
house.
the story that's been told. Is
Okay.
that's what happened.
Okay.
That guy
That's
went
even
and
what
killed-
they're telling him. Bury
All right,
my heart
all
at
right, so
Wounded
what's-
Knee.
Okay,
We
so here's a really. Anyways,
But then it got started up.
Bryan,
Several people got killed. So anyway, so then what happened was the governor of Minnesota went, I'm going to fucking hang everybody in this tribe. And Lincoln came in and was like, stop. Lincoln reviewed, him and his fucking team reviewed.
was he the president?
They were
Yeah, he was
initially
the
going to
president.
hang 300 and like
hang over
38.
300 people.
It was a lot of
He
people.
went through case by case and said, okay,
He was a lawyer too.
well, he was president at the time, but yeah, he was a lawyer. So he said 38. These are the 38.
He said 33.
No, was it 38?
Oh no, you're
No, it
right.
was
You're
39.
right. 38 and 39 got hung one by accident.
Yeah. No, 39 originally. One of them got exonerated at the last minute, and they have since deemed one of them definitely should not have been hung. But anyways, so he went through case by case, and he was like, you know what, man? These are the guys that I honestly think did something outside of war.
Yeah.
Well, the post that Bryan shared said, it was some guy, and he was like,
It was misleading.
yeah, it was so misleading. He was like, oh, these guys were hunting off of the reservation, and they got caught, and Lincoln personally made sure that all these guys were hung. And that's the type of bullshit on Facebook that drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Because there is a real story there, and it's an important story that people need to know. And this guy was in no way. He made it about you think you like Lincoln,
Yeah.
but fuck Lincoln. You know,
A
that
lot
was
of-
his bottom line was
A
like,
lot of-
fuck Lincoln.
Well,
Lincoln-
Chomsky will do that to you.
Yeah, so
Chomsky will tell you that all your heroes are war criminals.
Yeah, so his whole thing was
And
like,
he's probably not
Lincoln
wrong,
is
Johnny.
a great
He's not
emancipator. Well, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
But my thing was like Lincoln actually saved a lot of fucking people. But it was a horrible situation. But why can't we talk about that situation? Why do we have to make it like a fucking Lincoln bashing?
Yeah.
So that's where I responded to your thing was like,
Right.
I feel like on Facebook so often it's what headline
Well,
can I
you-
get to
well,
get
well,
some
no,
likes
'cause
and
we-
some shares?
You got to learn how to distinguish between journalism and
Well,
nonsense.
because we got to talk about this a little bit afterwards. Because as soon as you answered me, I'm like, okay, so Nick knows about this. He actually knows a little what he's talking about because I've read about this. So you know that a lot of those convictions of even that 38 were obtained by fucking shady testimony, right?
Yeah, it was all military
pretty-
tribunal.
well,
it was
yeah.
definitely very shady.
It was pretty shady. So
No, and again, if the post had been about that, I would have been with you 100%.
yeah. Well, my post was about that.
but it's when they focus on the wrong thing. Well, the problem was Harold also shared that same post,
Yeah.
and I'd seen it earlier.
That's who I
and
got
was
it
like,
from.
I was like,
I had gotten
I don't
it
know
from
about
him.
that.
Harold gets
you,
some
and then when you shared it, I was like,
countercultural shit.
Because I don't know Harold.
I couldn't figure out how to get that
on Facebook. Plus, Harold would fucking stomp me, man.
Oh
Like,
yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm like, at least I know Richter won't like kill me in my sleep.
Well, I didn't-
This guy's like a black belt who's like your size, so he's got the technique
I don't
and the
fuck
power.
with Harold's on
He's
that
a
short list of
monster.
people I would never fucking
He's a monster, dude.
fight, dude.
All right,
I just feel
guys.
like we'd lose. Like
let's not.
a lot.
I don't want to get too far this late in the show into the whole Native American thing
this is
because
the longest we've
I got a
gone.
lot to fucking say about that.
This is the
So
longest we've gone. Just keep doing, dude. Chopping it up is not as easy as it sounds.
No, I got a lot to talk about,
a
and I
lot
enjoy
easier.
this group. This group talks very well, and I enjoy it.
Okay, 4% of Americans believe that reptilian shapeshifters control the government. 4%. But in the last presidential election,
wait, hold on. What the fuck did you just say?
4% of Americans believe.
This is the light topic we should have gone
Have
to.
you ever
instead
watched
of
V?
Charlie Hebdo?
Never seen the TV
wait,
show
I
V?
don't.
Or They Live?
4%. They Live is the best with the sunglasses.
I've seen They Live. Yeah, Roddy
4%.
Piper.
No, there's this. You don't know the reptilian conspiracy theory?
Dude, John,
David
seriously, fuck, man. Okay,
so 4%. So what is
again,
that?
you see
That's
why I stick to fiction, right?
4, 8, 12. It's about 15 million people in this country believe that reptilian shapeshifters control the government. Believe it. There's YouTube videos.
And that's just a reptilian conspiracy.
Yeah.
You get into like Illuminati,
Oh, it's like 14%.
and you get into like some of this crazy
JFK,
shit.
we're at 51%, which I'm one of
Okay.
those guys.
Elvis and Tupac are fucking.
Oh my god. But
They've
here's
been
why I
bond
bring
loads together in
if I
Vegas somewhere.
ever have to write a thesis or a paper on population control in the United States, I'm going to start
with the reptilians.
with the culling of those of
Yeah.
that herd. The people who believe there's a reptilian
But the
conspiracy, I think we should
yeah.
start the culling there.
The reason I bring it up is because 4% of Americans believe this, but in the last general election, you had about 2.5% of people of the electorate voted for a third party. In other words, fewer people believe in the chances that or in the ideals of a third party candidate in this country. Fewer people believe in that than people that believe in reptilian shapeshifters.
I think that's wrong, though. I think more people believe in the idea of a third party, but they won't.
They get
they're
scared
cowards,
away from-
and they won't commit to
Exactly.
it.
The third
I'm
party.
glad you said that because I was about to shoot myself.
He's 100% right. Because if you talk to most people will come out and be like, "Yeah, I definitely support a third," but you don't see it in the polls.
They always get pulled in by
like you can ask anybody out there, are you Republican or Democrat?
Almost everybody.
Nobody answers it. No, I'm neither. Fuck that, I'm neither. And it's like, really? Because I look at the voting statistics, and there's no way that all of you aren't either when they're getting 97% of the vote.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
no, I agree with you.
And that whole Bush, that stems from the whole Bush Nader fucking.
And Ross
Gore.
Ross
yeah,
Perot
is
No, that was before. But when
2000?
when George W. Bush got elected,
Right.
and Nader was the third party candidate, and a lot of people did vote for him. It wasn't enough to get the Green Party to get their funding, but it was a majority of people did, and then they blamed Gore losing on that. And said,
Right.
the reason that Gore lost,
They always do.
is because all these people that voted for Nader.
2 days ago
And if they would have just voted for Gore instead, it's like no, the people that voted for Nader wanted to vote for Nader.
Yeah.
That doesn't automatically
them.
mean they would have voted for Gore.
No.
And-
But
since then, that's the
they
whole
would have.
argument.
No,
they wouldn't have.
But Mark,
I voted
I
for
think-
Nader. I was not going to vote for Gore.
Well, that's a good point.
I was not going to vote for Gore.
But if Nader
I would have
didn't
sat at
exist-
home.
if Nader didn't exist-
I would have sat at home. I wasn't going to vote
you
for
sure?
Bush, and I was not going to vote for Gore. Yes.
Yeah, you're probably right.
So all I'm saying is that the third party then thing stems from that. I think the argument since then, whenever you bring up, say, oh, vote for blah, blah, everyone wants to say, you're wasting your vote.
Right.
You're wasting your vote. And if people just...
Mark, I completely agree with you. Know that I advocate third-party voting, but I was willing to accept that they were right. I mean, the people. So one of the guys I'm friends with on Facebook, when I wrote, vote for Bernie Sanders, this guy was like, "Why are you shitting on Hillary, man? You know Bernie's not going to win, so you're just taking votes.
How do you know
you're
that?
Just
You got a
helping.
Magic 8 Ball?
You're just helping the Republican get win because you're not giving your vote to
Take
the
your
Democrat.
balls out of your purse
Yeah.
and vote for what you want.
Yeah.
Don't vote for second best.
But I and that's completely my view. But I also was ready to believe. I was like, I take responsibility for my vote helping the Republican to win. I'm down with that. That's how much I hate the two-party system. I hate it worse than I hate Republicans. Right. I was like, elect a Republican, and I'll be complicit in that. I'll take responsibility. I go, but you guys who are voting for Hillary, take responsibility for the fact that you're perpetuating the system that you say that you hate. Right. You don't like Hillary. You don't like the two-party system, but you have to agree that by voting for her, you're going to perpetuate the thing that you hate. The two-party system. And both, it was nice because I was like, I take responsibility for helping a Republican to get elected, and they took responsibility, these two guys, for perpetuating the system because they hate Republicans that bad. So we just ended up on different...
Let me ask you this, man. I'm not going to vote for Hillary. I'm not fucking doing it.
I will never vote for her.
I'm not fucking doing it. I'll jump off a cliff first.
And this is the reason...
I didn't even like Gore, and he is much...
But
I like him a lot more than her.
I'm not voting for Jeb Bush or Marco Rubio or any of those lunatics either.
Get a vote for Sanders in the primary, Democratic primary.
Yeah, well,
we need a conservative on here.
So who's
I'm going to lose all my conservative listeners.
Yeah, so who's going to...
Just four liberals.
That fucking guy? That one guy?
Jim?
Who's going to stand up to either of them and be a good third party, or can I write somebody in? Because I'll write you in. I'll write you in, but I want a job, dude. I want a high-paying job.
Yeah, I want to be secretary of...
35, is that it?
We can't write me in, dude. I have too much of a jaded past.
No one wants you to be president.
No.
I'm just kidding.
No one wants me, Pierre. They don't want me to do. They want me to shut up.
Yeah, Bryan could be the third party, and then you'd up that conservative audience.
No, we're done.
Then I would?
Yeah,
they'll take one look at me.
Because of the gun.
Yeah, my mom will expose me immediately. He's not a conservative. Go away.
But Sanders
he likes welfare. He hates corporation.
Right? What is Sanders?
Sanders anti-gun control.
Oh,
He's
awesome.
pro-Second Amendment.
Awesome. Look at that. Is he really?
Yeah.
That's going to get him a lot of voters. I looked at the polls, though. You go to realclearpolitics.com.
It's not going to get him shit. He's not going to win.
No.
And we all know it. And that's what's fucked up about it. It's like, he's not going to win.
Even after this huge publicity thing in the last week about Sanders, since he announced his bid, I went to Real Clear Politics, looked it up. Hillary's at like 58% of the vote. Biden has 10%.
Yeah, he isn't
and Sanders has 5%.
It's
Joe
like,
Biden has double the support of Sanders, and he's not running for president.
It's like, have you guys been alive for the last 10 years
rocks.
when everyone wants Ron Paul to win, only Ron Paul somehow never even comes remotely close? And it's like, I get it, man. Like, you're into it. I dig it. But he isn't going to win. Well, and that's a system issue. You know?
So what are you? Are you a guy that ends up voting for the lesser of two evils, or do you vote for your third party guy? Or will you? I know you're like 15 years old. But...
I'm going to be real with you. I didn't vote in the last election because I was too lazy. Because I was out in Georgia. I was registered in Arizona. I was too lazy to look into how it went.
I didn't either.
I was,
and I'm not proud
I
of
was
that.
barely old enough for the 2008 election, and I voted for Obama. And like, I stand behind it. Like, fuck you guys, whatever.
I won't even tell you.
I'm better off now than I was 8 years ago. I was in my parents' house 8 years ago, so fuck you guys.
I voted for Obama in 2008.
Obama did me good.
You voted for Obama in 2008?
In 2008.
You did?
Yep.
What the fuck? 2008?
Yeah.
Wait,
it was the first time.
Yeah.
No, it was.
Yes, we can. He fucking fooled me.
Dude, I
was
was down
so
too.
sweet in 2008, man. I was all about
I was
Obama
down
in
with
2008.
him.
He fooled me, bro. He that whole yes me. I saw that yes we can speech. He had me, dude. I was like, don't boil all the hope out of him. Remember that
We
shit?
all knew it wasn't going to happen.
No, dude, I believed for like 38 days, man.
After 8 years of the shrub, we were so excited that the president could speak.
Yeah.
We were so excited that he could speak in articulate sentences, full sentences with no made up words.
But I didn't vote for him in 12.
No, I remember.
Fuck
I remember being 18 years old. Like
I didn't vote for him in 12.
barely 18.
You voted
and
for
voting
Obama
for him in
in
08. And I was like, nothing's
had
gonna
hope.
change, man. No, I didn't. I didn't have
You didn't?
No, even I was like,
You weren't
nothing's
tricked?
changing, man. Like, It's all the same.
Nick is wise beyond his years.
It's all going to be the
fair.
same if we vote for Hillary or fucking Jeff. But it ain't going to change.
Well, that's what I was
won't
going to say.
participate
So even if
in that
Sanders,
election.
even if Sanders did win, do you think he'd actually be able to change anything, or would he be completely ineffective?
He would be
stonewalled
so hard
by both parties.
He would be stonewalled.
Both parties
so hard.
would turn against him. It happened to John Tyler when he took over he was the vice president, and
Bryan
William,
voted for John Tyler actually
in 1832.
1832. He was fresh out of fucking college.
He could just barely vote. I mean, he's not that old, but no. You know, all right. I think I'm right about this. John Tyler, one of his grandchildren
Still alive.
is alive.
He had. Have you heard this?
This is 20 years before the Civil War.
Yeah.
John Tyler was president.
He was like 75 and he had a kid. And then that kid had another kid at 75. And that dude's like 90 today. And he's still alive. A grandchild of a president that was like 20 years before Lincoln.
Most usually recognized as the worst president of all time.
Well,
because
no, Buchanan.
There's a debate. Buchanan led to the
pretty much anyone in like the 30 years before the Civil War is kind of fucked.
Right up until the American Lion, the Indian killer.
Oh, Jackson.
Jackson. Well,
Andrew Jackson.
Okay, yeah. Anyone
he was
after,
beloved. And he's still considered a great president. He served 2 terms.
He was a fucking nutcase. Anyways, anyone between Jackson and Lincoln is considered like the
horrible.
Worst. Add in Hoover, and you've got like your list of worst presidents.
Man, Nick, you're well educated, man.
Bro, I got a criminal justice degree. I know how the world works.
Did John write your papers?
No, actually,
God, I wish he had. If I had known that existed.
You know, when the Civil War started, John Tyler got on the side of the Confederacy, and he was an ex-president, so it was a huge scandal. Because all the mainstream politicians were for the North. I mean, these Southern secessionists were nutballs. And John Tyler came out as an ex-president. He was still alive, and he was like, I support the Confederacy. And everyone was like, Jesus.
Since we're talking about the Confederacy, and I just have a question. I know none of this is like...
Talking to the microphone.
Okay. So I'm not
editing shit.
I've spent the last 4 years of my life in Georgia.
Yeah.
And I want to know what you guys think. So, like, I mentioned to someone off the air that, like, I have driven on the Jefferson Davis Memorial Highway. I have been to Stone Mountain, which is, I think it's a national park. And it's literally, it's like Stonewall Jackson, Robert E. Lee, Jefferson Davis, I think, and maybe another Confederate general. All, like, it's like the Mount Rushmore of fucking the Civil War, of the Confederates. I served at Fort Benning. Benning was a Confederate general. I served at Fort Stewart. Stewart was a Confederate general.
It's rife throughout the Army.
Fort Bragg, Fort Hood.
All of them?
Fort Polk. All Confederate generals.
Holy shit.
So here's my question to you.
I've never heard
I just
this
got a history
shit.
lesson.
Me too.
I've lived in a lot of those forts.
All of those
yeah.
forts? What about Knox? The guy with the gold.
No, I got to get you an official list because there's like I want to say 6 maybe that are still named after Confederate generals.
How many fucking history lessons do you get from 25-year-old dudes?
Never.
Like, it's fucking ridiculous, man.
I mean, McKinley last week was great.
Yeah, great guest. I didn't get a history lesson.
He didn't have these chops. And I don't think he shared it on Facebook either, so fuck you, Mick.
That was a damn gem, Nick.
Just so you guys know, this is going to be on my MySpace page as soon as we're done. I'm going to fucking put it. No, so my question is, though, like, are we cool with that? Because I feel fucking weird about it. Like, I feel weird about being at Fort Stewart, named after General Stewart, who was like a Confederate general.
I don't know what to tell you, man. It was a different time.
There's a Jefferson Davis Memorial that in like Kentucky or Tennessee. It's a miniature version of the Washington.
There's a statue of him at like the University of Texas or something, and there's a big controversy in the news right now about the students want to pull it down.
I mean, I could get a memorial. Like, okay. But to name a U.S. Army, like current, like the same U.S. Army that fought his army, and we've got so many, like...
Army loves tradition, man. I don't think they're racist or anything. I just think they're...
I don't think about that, but it's like, I don't know. I've always just found it weird.
Yeah, well, they were traitors,
I just want to see if any of you, like, cared about it.
No, it's definitely weird, because it'd be like, I would think it'd kind of be like if we had some army camps in
the Benedict Arnold Memorial Highway.
No, in Germany, like
like Fort Hitler or something. Yeah, that would be weird. Like
during Fort,
that would be weird, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I understand. Like we've kind of we've given a lot of forgiveness to the Confederates. I think just because I think we can sort of we can't sympathize with the slavery thing. Like,
Nope.
That was super
Chattel slavery.
But I think we can all, to an
Millions
extent,
of
sympathize
Africans.
with why they decided to fight. And, like, even if you weren't a slave owner, but you lived in the South, like, you're going to kind of...
You got to be on team slave.
So, I don't know. It's just weird. I just wanted to bring it up and see what you guys
most
thought.
I didn't even
Southerners-
know about that. Like that that all those bases and forts were named after Confederate generals.
Most Southerners weren't land-owning, slave-owning people.
No, they weren't.
They were.
No, that was the aristocracy of
yeah,
the South.
Yeah.
We would have been fucking, like, just... a bunch
Jefferson
of dudes
himself,
on a-
though, he owned a lot of slaves, and he was completely against it ideologically. He was against slavery. He wrote beautiful works.
Which is
Then
such
he
a-
also wrote
that's
beautiful
such a
works in
great-
favor of it.
That's such a great historical standpoint to be at. Be like, yeah, I owned them. I got
Yeah.
all the benefits of
I
slaves.
was against him,
but I was against them, guys. Don't hate me historically. Like,
So-
you still owned fucking
You
people.
got.
Like,
It's important to know too the founding fathers and which ones owned slaves. Alexander Hamilton grew up in like the Keys. It was like the Caribbean at the time. It was insane. His parents died, or he was an orphan. They gave him up or something. Brilliant man. Rose up through there, came here, wrote the Constitution with Madison, and fought for it. They were the Federalists, the people that beef would hate back then. And
yeah, the central government.
Alexander
That's so
Hamilton
important. So important because, man, if he didn't do what he
taxi,
did,
yeah.
that
And
the
the-
Civil War would have happened a century earlier. Like
And it would have
would've just
destroyed
been
us.
Chaos.
Hamilton never owned a slave. Never in his life. He grew up around slaves in that Caribbean island that he grew up on. John Adams was a weird... I guess people are saying he's a deist. I thought he was a Quaker. I thought he was a devout Protestant. And John Adams never owned a slave. Totally against it. Would never have owned one ever. And John Quincy Adams, too. But otherwise, they all had them. Washington owned a lot of... Not Benjamin Franklin. Or he like... participated in like the selling of slaves at times.
I can't speak to this because I don't know.
He wasn't
exactly
100% clean. I think he had maybe one or two or something. No, but he lived up north, so it wasn't even legal there.
It was legal for a while.
Yeah,
it was legal for longer
but
than it should have been.
But the northern states didn't have a lot of slaves, even when it was legal up in those states.
Well, it ended up hurting them.
Because there was no cotton. There was no, like, you might have some like house slaves or something, but they didn't. There was no agricultural industry up north.
I see what you're
Well,
saying.
yeah, it was a lot more industrial by that point.
Yeah, it always was. That's why it came out the way it did, because the North didn't make their money off of that, so it was okay to be against it. Anyway, Adams and Hamilton, no slaves. Washington had a bunch, but freed them when he died. Like, so you could put that in your will. Like, all my slaves are free. Washington did that. Jefferson was just banging them and having kids. And
I've been listening to all your podcasts. I want to say I heard you guys, you were talking about the 3/5 compromise.
Yeah.
Not too long ago.
Right.
You know who passed the 3/5 compromise, right?
Was it Lincoln?
It was the North. The North passed the 3/5 compromise.
Well,
What do you mean? It passed the Congress?
Well, no, because
dominated
so
by the
here's
North?
here's what happened was the South had all these slaves, and they wanted to count them towards
as their population. So they would have more House of Representatives.
exactly, and more in the Electoral College and all
Yes,
that.
yes, yes.
And the North was the ones that said you can't own people and then count them because
As
they
a
aren't voting.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
they're not voting,
And
yeah.
that's where the 3/5 compromise came in, and a lot of people don't understand.
But it
that
was a
these
compromise,
days.
so I don't know what you're saying, that the North was complicit in this.
Well, lots
they
of
wanted
people-
them to not be counted.
Well,
Right. But
what he's
people
saying
say,
is-
"Oh, it's 3/5." Oh, that's so demeaning to them,
Yeah.
and it's like it actually helped them in the long run. Like, yeah, it's fucked up historically to say, "Oh, you're only 3/5 of a person."
Oh, yeah,
But in reality, like, it was actually for a good reason
Yeah,
that they
good
were
point.
counted as 3/5. And it's just
It
one of
was
those
a
things
compromise.
Yeah, it's one of those things that historically is like really frowned upon, but it has like its reason
Yeah,
for existence.
most
Yeah.
every single person that ever brings it up or talks about it in a negative way.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And they basically are saying, "Oh, see, they didn't even count a black person as a real person. They're only 3/5."
Yeah,
and it had nothing to do with that.
Right.
It was
Yeah,
but,
but-
about keeping the South, because otherwise the
but
South would have controlled.
yeah, but it's
all of the
legitimate
government.
to look back on that from the modern
No,
world and be like, "What? This was a debate? How much of a person they are?" Like, so
but
that's
also,
why.
but also, just from that time, and like you guys all said, we can all accept that slavery is bad. But the North, when they liberated the slaves and won the Civil War, in the South, they really didn't benefit the black people too much.
No,
it led right into sharecropping.
Yeah, carpetbaggers came down there, and they pretty much took up the spoils of war and gave them to each other, and they weren't giving them to the ex-slaves.
No.
And they weren't. So, like,
No, and
anyone that thinks
largely
that the
didn't
North,
the same aristocracy and people that had been in power, didn't they just kind of
course, they're
Well,
fall right back into
okay,
it?
That's what I'm saying. The zombie apocalypse comes. The rich people are still rich, bro.
Well, so it's just
Sorry,
like this.
they have property.
The,
they
the,
have
eman-
things.
the Emancipation Proclamation, what did it do?
Well, it declared it was a executive order declaring that slavery was illegal and that slaves had to be.
No, slavery was illegal in the Confederate States. When Lincoln passed the Emancipation Proclamation, it freed the slaves in the Confederate States. It didn't free the slaves in the border states. They were still on the Union side. Those didn't get freed until the amendment was
Like
passed.
Oklahoma.
Till Juneteenth.
Yeah. No, like Kentucky and I want to say Maryland too.
Oh wow.
So, and I think Missouri was another one. Oh, just
Yeah, but you gotta.
no, but this is
You gotta make your buddies happy. I mean,
No, I know,
we're
but
not trying
this-
to end slavery here.
But this is
scratched
the way
my
history
back.
goes. Yeah, it's just
Great
it's
shit,
funny
man.
to me. No,
That's
there's
awesome.
There's a lot of stuff like that.
I thought
where
I
it's
was
like,
well read.
So I'll piggyback off your issue. Like, if we're weird about those forts being named after Confederates, how do we feel about Jackson and Grant being on the money, knowing their role in the fucking genocide of the Native
So are
Americans?
you
No, they
with
were
the
super
are you
fucked up.
with the social justice warriors and wanting to get Jackson off the $20 bill?
I think Grant should come off the 50 too. If we're really if
Grant.
we're that concerned about being politically correct, and
Wait, didn't Grant win the Civil War? I mean,
yeah, and then he also presided over the genocide of the Native American.
you gotta weigh them.
That's a big fucking knock to me, dude. It's a big knock. We destroyed an indigenous culture under his watch.
Yep.
And he let it happen in the most fucked up ways.
Well, then once we take him off the 50, also, then we can put him back in his tomb.
What do you mean?
Who's in Grant's tomb?
Oh, yeah.
It's a joke.
No, I get it. But you know what's funny about that? As we're talking about the
my
Native
bad.
American, like Sitting Bull's still not home. He's at Pine Ridge. He's not where his family wants him. The state of South Dakota says he's property of the state. Like,
was it Geronimo's skull or whose skull?
I
skull
think
and crossbones have.
It's symbolically important to the tribes.
I don't remember.
But so that is important. It's symbolically important to them.
Yeah,
so
I think we should put Sitting Bull on the 50 and maybe a woman. There's plenty of real strong
Who would
women in
you pick?
American history.
What woman would you pick on a?
I don't know who was it that helped Lewis and Clark around. Was that Pocahontas or Sacagawea? Fuck yeah! I get my names messed up. Thank you again,
A Native
Sacagawea.
American woman. That would be fucking sick.
Dude. Pay respect, man. Honor the culture that you fucking destroyed. Like,
Do
our
what you
country's-
can.
the West is built on their.
Is on
That gold coin.
Come on, man.
It's gone though. It's
Come
not,
on,
they
man.
don't
Some
make
of the
it
people are
anymore,
going to
do they?
pass around and see.
That's
like,
not being-
it's bullshit.
That's discontinued.
That was almost a slap in the fucking face if you're going to do it, man. Like, don't like.
50?
Well,
How often you see a $50 bill?
I'm talking about the 20. Put her on the 20.
20. Okay.
Yeah, I
Jackson's
carry
on the
hundreds.
20,
The
right?
20 is what it's all
Yeah,
about.
it's everywhere.
Lincoln should be on that
She
shit.
should be in everybody's pocket.
Peasants. I don't know. I carry a couple hundreds in my.
Oh, no, dude.
We're not all army
Link-
officers.
Ben Franklin, not even a president. on
Lincoln's
the $100
Lincoln's
bill.
watch was some of that Indian War too, dude. It tainted my
Franklin,
opinion of
All
it.
of them were. Everyone. Every president
Franklin
in history, you
deserves.
can find some people that they fucked up.
Yeah, you get thrown into a position.
Everyone.
Where you have to.
You know what? I'm gonna admit this. I don't know why I take this so personal.
What?
I don't know why. The whole thing about the Native American out west.
So it's fucked up.
I don't know.
I
It
mean,
was.
there's nothing wrong with taking it personally.
No, I
We're the
really
messed
do,
up.
man. Like we owe them more than we've given
I
them.
think it's your moral sensibilities that lead you to.
Man, do you think that's what woke me up? Like going there
Well,
last summer.
here's what it is.
Oh,
Like it
maybe.
woke me up, dude.
Here's exactly
But
what it comes
you've-
down to, Brian. What we were talking about
I
earlier.
hadn't had a liberal thought in like 3
Here's-
years before
It
that.
was what we were talking about earlier. People asking for it. The Indians didn't ask
Didn't
for
ask
that
for
shit.
nothing.
They didn't ask for that shit, and that's why everyone can feel some sympathy for them because they were just over here doing.
Well,
their thing,
and you
man.
know what? Like largely, I didn't know. Like I didn't know.
That's the other thing. You feel weird about how
But-
little you were taught about.
Yeah.
Like this massive genocide that occurred in our country.
Yeah.
When you talk to
you're like,
Alexis, who's from Puerto Rico, he'll tell you how weird his education was. The Spanish were heroes in every scenario, and the indigenous people were just
Christopher
smack-
Columbus is a fucking national treasure.
Yeah.
Like, we have Columbus Day. Like Yeah, it was a little scary.
Well, you know what? There's some towns. I think it was Seattle. They call it Indigenous Peoples Day or something like that.
Seattle's.
It's a big step, man.
Going there in August, man.
And I'm not.
Can't wait.
I'm not arguing against the genocide of Native Americans.
No,
or,
you are
or the
against.
bad treatment.
Yeah.
I'm saying it's not. It didn't happen or what. But the American Indians, the tribes, they weren't all like
love
peace,
and
love,
hug.
No.
hippies, like hanging out, grooving with each other.
No, they were vicious to each other.
Yeah, so
Even
so
to each
whenever
other.
but
And that's the perfect example of the warrior, the soldier. Those at least the way I've seen them depicted in movies, those dudes are just, I'm in it for the fight. I don't have an ideology. I'm not protecting your freedom. I'm out there. I want to fight. I want to be the best killer in this group.
Dude,
and I respect
well,
that.
but not even-
I respect that.
Sitting Bull at
but
like
not
7.
even killer because they do count and coup.
Count and
But
coup.
you're not even killing anybody.
It's honor.
That's all they're doing.
Good point. Honor.
69 times Sitting Bull counted coup.
So let's explain to the listeners what that is because it's awesome.
That's closing to within. You have it was called a coup stick, and it was probably adorned so that you could see it happening, and you would close to within striking distance of an enemy that was actively trying to kill you, and you would smack him with your stick.
Was
And
this on horseback or on foot?
either?
Yeah.
You could count coup either
So
way.
you're getting close enough to smack him, and then you're getting away without getting beat up by this.
the whole
dude.
time he's trying to kill you. He might be shooting
Yeah.
at you. He might be throwing spears, shooting arrows.
And I don't know if it's jujitsu or what, but that to me, I understand how
They used to do
badass
that.
that is.
They used to do that thing where
You
they
put
called it the
yourself
daring
at
line,
risk.
where they would ride back and forth in front of the
It's-
opposing force and let them shoot at them, and just they
It's
called it the
probably-
daring line.
That's how the Mongols were. They were so far superior in battle to their enemies. They just went through them like butter. The Chinese, the Middle Easterns, the Mongols conquered more area than any other empire, maybe until the British Empire.
Well, because they were all mounted and they were all superior archers.
Mounted plains people,
Yeah.
horse riding plains people with archers, where you were firing arrows
So they could,
on horseback
they
when you were
could
3
move-
years old.
They could move, so many more miles a day, and then they didn't even have to engage you. They'd fucking sit there and shoot you with arrows, and you were like, well,
The
shit, I can't
medieval
even get out.
knights, even of Europe, Western Europe of that time, we were talking about 1000 AD. Those guys, they can't fire arrows on horseback at full speed. They were gonna get off and try to line you up, and the Mongols are just cutting through them. Although the Mongols never came into France or anything, but they took over the Middle East and China and a lot of other.
So to Beef's point, though, they weren't peaceful people, but they, from what I'm reading, they made every effort to live with us in peace. Like everything we offered them and that they agreed to.
Yeah, Beef's putting the responsibility on them.
Yeah, let's not victim blame them. They really tried hard to honor the treaties. Cochise honored his treaty until there was an incident where, and there was never any signed agreement. Like I just read this, it's amazing. In Colonel Sladen or in Captain Sladen's autobiography from 1872, Making Peace with Cochise, they traveled up into the Dragoons, just him and General Howard with some Apache guides. The balls that took, bro. They must have had a whole fucking wagon train to carry their balls. Because we were at war with the Apache and it wasn't going super well.
Yeah, well, they were the Muslims of their day because there were all kinds of false flag attacks even back then, where the Mountain Meadows massacre. I mean,
The Grant Fort massacre right here in Tucson.
No,
when the
no,
Air Viper
I'm
Mountain,
talking-
Mountain Meadows was
Mormons.
LSD, right? Yeah. Or
No, no, no.
LDS.
Yeah, it was Church of
Wrong
Latter-day
acronym, sorry.
So
Yeah,
what
that's the
happened
Mormons
is
in Utah.
in the 1800s, I forget which decade, the Mormons were heading out west because they had been kicked out of everywhere. And what they did was so they were camped out in Kentucky or whatever, and a wagon train of white settlers was heading west.
Because they started in Missouri, I want to say.
Yes.
Nauvoo.
Well, they started in New York.
yeah.
And
that's
then
what Johnson.
yeah, but Missouri was the locus of the church, and then they went to Kentucky, and then they went further west. So this wagon train of settlers was heading out to California or something, and went through the Mormons' territory. And I can't remember what the motivation was, but the Mormons slaughtered them. It was 100 people or something.
Because it's a cult.
Yeah. They just killed everyone, man, woman, and child. And granted, guys, the Mormons are pretty cool now as far as religions go.
Oh yeah, super chill.
Yeah, super chill.
But
back then,
that shit. Like,
they slaughtered people and they blamed it on the Indians.
Yeah, well, they went hard at the Utes too.
Then the army came out and started slaughtering Indians.
oh yeah, they started a fucking civil war with the U.S. Army at one point in Utah.
Dude, I could talk about this for like 10 hours right
Well,
now.
anyway,
I got so much
we have
shit
to
to say
end.
about
Well,
this. Like,
We have to end. Don't you guys agree?
Let me say one thing about the Indian thing though, and I've been just reading this online and hearing people talk about it.
I'll give you tons of stuff.
So people dressing up in tribal gear or dressing up like a Chinese woman, or like there's all this stuff about how you are basically demeaning other people's culture when you like are dressing up this way, even just for Halloween or what, blackface, whatever you want to say.
It's kind of true though.
Is it?
Yeah, because
Like little kids,
No, 'cause Mark,
little kids dressed up like Indians.
I know, but that's their
'Cause they
parents.
wanna be
but that's
an
their,
Indian.
But that's their parents.
okay,
No,
to a certain degree it
if
is.
They
To a
go,
certain
if
degree
they
it is.
go, I want to be an Indian for Halloween, and you're like, okay, put this one feather
I
and
know, but
put some crap on their
it's
cheeks.
just like drawing
and
Muhammad. It's nothing to us, but to
Right.
them, each of those feathers means something. You know
No,
what I mean? So
I-
you grew up where each feather had a meaning, and then you see some kid being a dummy
Well,
with
do
a
you
bunch
know
of
what-
feathers stuck in there.
do you know
it
what's-
would be offensive.
I can tell you what Sitting Bull
But I
said.
don't-
That was
but
each
when
time they
people
counted coup, the Sioux. Every
the
feather was
feathers?
each time they had counted coup.
something. But what about kids that want to dress up like firemen or mailmen or
I think to ask that,
or dress up like?
I'll say this. I'll say this.
Yeah, dude,
After-
I was in the Indian Guides. Have you guys ever heard of that? Really? Never? It must be out east only. It's like the Boy Scouts, but it's that celebrates Native American culture, but it's for white kids. So it's like Boy Scouts where you're really young and you dress up as an Indian with other white kids, and the dads like take you around and go on hikes and teach you how to weave a thing or start a fire or whatever. It's like the Boy Scouts. It's like the liberal Boy Scouts. I don't know how my dad got involved in this, but we were in it together, and like. It was
How come you didn't display any of your skills when we were out there, motherfucker?
because I have none.
Oh,
I learned
okay.
nothing.
So you weren't tanking.
I suck
All
at
right.
being an Indian
Were
guy.
you like 6 when you did that?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, I don't know where I was going with that, Mark, but yeah, it's like it's not the biggest crime in the world to dress up as it. But
I don't think.
But imagine being that guy where that meant so much to you, and then you see some white child, just gallivanting around with sugar in his ass.
I mean, if
It
I
would
saw
be
some
annoying.
kid,
At least I don't think they should be prevented from doing it.
you see some kid dressed up like a hobo or
Hobos aren't going to get offended.
Right, they're not. Why?
Well, what about
Because
what
they
about
don't
all the-
identify as hobos.
Well,
Hobos don't.
what about-
don't describe themselves as
What
hobo
about all
on
the
Facebook?
what about all the stolen valor stuff going on right now?
That
You
I
see-
can understand.
You see a dude wearing a fucking
Yeah, they
like,
should
silver
get called
sergeant.
out. The same thing happened. I don't want to.
Is that-
I'm pretty
wearing
sure that's a
military-
fucking punch in the face offense.
Wearing
from
military
me.
medals and
Kick-
and
can I-
patches
Yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff.
they wear the uniform. They've
Yeah,
never
but-
been
but
involved.
they're- but see,
I'm gonna
that's
be real with you
that's
guys
the
for a second though.
difference.
I don't give a fuck.
You
about
don't
stuff.
care?
No, dude. It's the weirdest thing too because like, all right, if I see you like,
You just think he's pathetic.
if you're donning a uniform to make like to con somebody to make money, then yes, that's definitely fucked up.
Go ahead.
But if like a
Yeah.
lot of these dudes, they got.
You're talking about like
Yeah.
you're talking about like the fanboys, the military
I'm talking
fanboys.
about the guys that legit have like
He's saying
something
mental
wrong
problems.
upstairs. Like they got and there's a lot of them have mental.
Honestly,
to go,
yeah.
how much?
I've
would
seen a ton of
how
it at
much
the
would I
psych
have to
hospital.
pay you?
I saw
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
much.
How much
stolen
would I
valor
have
at
to
the
pay
psych
you
hospital.
to fucking wear my dress blues around?
Yeah.
Like, no, you wouldn't do it.
20
No
grand.
one at this table would do it.
I would
Because
do
you
it for-
understand it's a
for
weird
Well,
thing.
you know what, dude? I would feel
And
like I was
these guys-
shitting on my dad, man.
Yeah.
And there's
But
no
that's the
fucking
thing,
way
these
you're gonna
guys,
make me
like,
do that.
These guys, it's something mentally that like they don't have. And
It's a really good point, man.
Yeah. And so like I don't hate them. I don't fucking hate them. Like I said, if I know
If you
you're-
go to the mall
if I know
and
you're
you
100%
dress up
with
in
it-
a costume that isn't from your real life, you're weird.
Yeah, like if
and
I-
it is always these big like dumb looking, like lonely looking, like white dudes, like
I mean, if I wear a football jersey,
or
like
it was
if
a
I wear,
homeless guy in one of those.
if I wear like a Tom Brady jersey, am I
Yeah.
impersonating Tom Brady?
Or-
Like,
or-
no.
or-
Everyone knows I'm not Tom
Yeah,
Brady.
or-
Like, I'm way
you're-
too good looking to
You're-
be Tom
oh,
Brady.
I was gonna say you're handsome, but not quite
yeah, but
there yet.
if you
Or like furry culture. people dressing up like pandas,
mascots.
Plushies and
I
furries.
definitely think I differ with most military people though, and they're like, I
on
don't
about everything you said.
I don't get pissed when I see like people. Again, unless you're impersonating in order to like con somebody, because there are people out there that do that. They're they claim to be ex-Marines, so you go into business with them because that's supposed to mean something.
If you're a stolen valor guy at the and you oh shit. Well, if one of those first class guys on the plane gives up their seat for you.
But even a lot of those guys, man, like
that happens. Like not people in first class will sometimes be like, "Hey, man, you take my seat."
For me,
I would never do that. I just don't love soldiers that much. You would probably do that, and it would be awesome.
I would never accept
very nice
that. I would never accept that. It would be so weird.
You wouldn't accept it?
First off, if anybody is wearing their uniform on a plane, don't offer them shit because they're being an attention whore.
Oh shit!
They don't have to
wear it.
No. Now, okay. Back in the day,
I thought they had to be in the uniform when they arrived at the base or whatever.
Back in the day, the guys who were in basic training and got like Christmas leave or whatever, they had to wear their camos, their ACUs. They had to wear those on the plane because that way, like, everyone knew who the fuck they were because they look like cherries. You know what I mean? They had like their shaved heads and everything, no combat patches, nothing.
But what if he's escorting the deceased? Does he have to stay in uniform? He does, right?
The deceased?
Because sometimes they come back on commercial airlines, right?
Okay, yeah, but that's a rare.
Okay, I'm just wondering.
I don't know the protocol. I will not claim.
Trivia.
I will not claim. I've never fucking escorted.
I'm just
but I'm pretty sure
I'm
you
guessing.
would know.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure you would know if that dude was there on that business.
There's like 8 guys that do that. Like,
as opposed to that one dude who just is like, I'm gonna wear my fucking all my ribbons
see it all the time. Well, not the ribbons, but I do see him in the desert camo on planes all the time.
That's
coming back from deployment. Like, how much other clothes would he have?
If they're coming,
if they're coming back from deployment, like how much
people when they come back from deployment, they're on the same plane together. You come back as a unit on a chartered flight. There's no civilians on that flight. Now there are some guys,
and there's the free flights too. There's those. What's it called? Valor Air. There's where you can take these like cargo planes, and military people can go for free or really cheap. You've not heard of this?
That's military. That's on military planes. Like
but
you get on a
families
an AC-130 or C-130, not an AC, but a C-130.
The families can do that too.
That's scary.
Sometimes
I think they can. I never did any of that, so I'm not going to speak.
You could when I was over there. I forget what it was called.
If you
available,
get on a plane to fucking like Vegas tomorrow, and there's some dude wearing his fucking Class A's, like he's just on there for fucking attention. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like
I never knew that. I thought they had to wear that shit.
Well, let's put it this way. I have never in my life flown in my fucking uniform.
Oh man, Nick,
ever.
People are gonna think
people
are gonna think I set this up. Like I found a soldier who's really liberal on everything.
No, you just found a soldier who's not an ignorant fucking redneck, which is the majority of the soldiers I know.
I wonder how this is going to translate into your work as a police officer. Because you're just going to be one of the many really cool cops. There's a lot of them out there.
No, but you see,
and we just hear the worst of it usually.
It isn't about being a cool cop, though.
I mean, a morally sound cop.
But it is different being a cop than military because
totally.
I think as a cop, you were saying as a lieutenant or whatever, like if someone told you to kick down the door, you wouldn't do it. But I think as a cop, you might have to.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay, well, when I say not kick down a door, I'm talking if they told me to kick down like an American's door
for no reason otherwise to confiscate.
Oh, okay, no, I see what you're saying. I mean,
that's more likely going to fall to local authorities.
Yeah, and again, like point. I would just like to say I've never been a cop a day in my life, so I'm not speaking. I'm not speaking as a cop. Like I'm speaking with no authority.
We're
as a
just
police officer.
Trying to,
right. I'm like that guy that like talked to a recruiter in the army, and I'm like trying to speak as a soldier.
Yeah.
You know? Like, so no, I've never been a police officer, and I'm not speaking as a police officer. But I mean, you know what's against the law and what's not.
I don't think
you know what I mean. And
I don't think that Martine goes out there
and
kicks dudes in the grill when they're getting down on the ground with their hands up.
But,
I don't think he ever would do something.
But a lot
like
of that's your personality in general. Like you guys have known me for fucking a decade, man. Like, when have you ever seen me fucking act that way towards
Well,
anybody?
I know your skill set too. So if you want a guy on the ground, most guys, like, you're not going to have to kick him in the fucking face and break their jaw.
Well, that's the
the
other thing too. Is I'm not trying to prove to you I'm fucking tougher
Right.
than you either, because
And that's one of the problems, right?
I'll prove that anytime you want. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not.
Nick
I'm
is
not
a
that guy
badass
that's like,
grappler, wrestler.
Well,
Nick
that's one of the things I learned on the psyche. And Nick is a badass grappler. Sorry to interrupt you, but that's one of the things I learned on the psyche. And like, it's best not to turn it into a pissing contest.
Nope.
Nope.
Like, it really is.
I don't want to get
even if
into
you-
a knockdown, drag-out fight with anybody,
Even
even
if you
if I'm going to win.
Yeah, even if you have superior
I
firepower,
might
just
hurt my back
yeah.
just doing my
Yeah.
move. I don't want to get into a fight.
Yeah, let's
So
not.
And it's so funny, like,
I'm going to get my
how
eye
you
gouged.
change your views on things, because when I was like, 17, 18, like, dude, I would have fought anybody
Yep.
for any fucking reason.
Like
Just
Gracie
'cause
challenge.
I just want to get in a fight. But it's like, once you mature a little bit, and then also once you've seen some shit, you know what I mean? Like, the first time you see someone get like their head stomped in a fight,
Yeah.
and you're like, ooh, that's like, there's no coming
You
back
don't
from
like
that.
it. You don't
or,
like
or
it.
the first time you see that dude get stabbed or shot during a fight, and you're like, man, maybe I shouldn't be fucking. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna fight anymore
I've seen
because
that shit
I don't want to
downtown.
get shot. Like,
Well,
I would much
fucking-
rather back down from a fight. Yeah, I heard you
Beef
guys
has
talking.
been
Yeah,
shot.
beef has been shot. I heard
And
that.
wait till
story.
we have Ray Ray on.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where it's like, I love to fight, but like, I don't want to die, man. Like, I'm not trying
Nope.
to die over something stupid like that. Like, fuck no. So I've turned into like a pretty non-confrontational person. Like,
That comes with the confidence
Plus,
of
you don't-
martial arts
No,
skills.
and that's the other
well-
thing too. Is like, I don't feel like my dick is small if I fucking don't fight you in a
Nope.
bar.
No.
Like, it means nothing to me. You know what I mean?
Well, it's like it's also comes from the knowledge of martial arts. Like, if you just came out to the bar and you saw all the dudes that we trained with sitting around,
You
you'd
wouldn't
look at a
know.
lot of those guys and be like, "I'll tear that dude up."
Yeah.
Okay.
Little guys,
yeah.
maybe a chubby guy,
Yeah.
all
right.
kinds of things.
But
You'd be
then you
like,
go into
"All right, bro."
jiu-jitsu and you fight those
Well,
same guys, and you're like, oh, this dude
it-
could fucking wreck me.
right.
It-
you
it-
learn that
yeah.
there's hidden
It
skills.
would- It would be. We're there with Christina at Vaudeville one night, and this guy's going at it with his girlfriend, and then he says something about us, and
No, I was right there. He said something to Aaron.
yeah,
And
and I
me-
told
me and-
Christine, I'm like, watch this, 'cause-
Aaron from episode.
yeah.
No, me
Six.
and Aaron were standing right next to the guy, and like I was like,
I told Christine, I said, watch
but it was
this.
I was like super wasted, and then like Aaron was like, hey man, he like tapped me. He's like, I'm about to say something to this guy, and I was just a clueless fucking kid, so I was like, well, what's going on, man? And he was
I'll
like,
back you up, bro.
yeah, but I was like, I got your back,
got
bro.
you.
As I'm like leaning against the
This
pool
is
table,
why-
I'm like, I got your back, bro. I got you.
No, but this is the exact attitude that has led to me getting kicked in the grill out on 4th Avenue. It was other guys being that guy.
Well, but the thing is- but
they
the
were
thing is,
yelling
I trust
obscenities at my
You know what I mean?
girlfriend
Yeah.
and my friend, and I was. I just started screaming back across the street, "You're gonna talk to a girl?" I was trying to be like noble and shit, like, "You're gonna," and then one guy came out into the street, and I just marched out there drunkenly, not even thinking that this was. I never questioned it. I just started marching towards him, and we both started punching each other in the face. And then 6 more guys showed up with him, and then I got knocked out. And then I woke up, was on all fours, got kicked in the face, chipped my front tooth, got knocked out a second time, and then my girlfriend at the time just dragged me off the street. And then the cops came, and we kind of hobbled off.
Well, that's the thing though. Like I trust Aaron, and like I trust you guys too. But like
Definitely.
if Aaron said, because hey, I know Aaron's sober, so like I know Aaron it doesn't have
He's
those
thinking clearly.
Like I'm drunk, so like, dude, we should go fucking fight those guys. He's like, no, bro. But if Aaron's like, hey, man, he's like, time to get real. I'm like, oh, it's time to get real.
Yeah.
But like I still remember the one night I came out back.
Oh god, that's when I ripped my toe off.
Yeah, out
Yeah.
back, and like all I saw you, John, go running out back.
I was there.
Yeah, you were
you
working
went,
there.
you went
That-
running, and I just followed
Miguel
you.
and all them when they rushed the stage to attack that little DJ guy. And Miguel
then
got
we-
beat up by
and-
Doogie Howser, and then we ran him out the back.
We threw out like 6 guys.
Yeah, and I had flip flops on, so I
and
kicked something back there and tore my
Brian's
toe
toe
off.
was just bleeding.
But Nick was
for the
throwing-
audience.
I
We're
got so angry. I was
the-
just throwing people. I was just like,
the people listening. We the 3 of us. Oh, actually, the 4 of us worked at separate. Oh no, you never worked.
I never
at Vaudeville.
worked there. Oh, I was a professional drunk.
Yeah.
There a few times.
So we were at Vaudeville, live music venue downtown /bar, and yeah, this night the DJ on the stage got rushed by some maniac, and then the DJ beat up the maniac, and then we threw out like 6 or 7. Wait, was this this? No, this wasn't the time that we threw like 6 guys out the back, and then they came through with the truck and the gun.
This was Miguel and Diego. Miguel rushed and then Diego got up there.
So how many guys did we throw out?
Like 3,
2 or 3. Yeah.
Them and a couple people that were with them.
I just remember.
And
walking
then Isaiah
up back,
beat the shit out of Miguel.
Brian's toe is bleeding, and I was like, "Vengeance, Brian! Like I will."
Oh yeah,
avenge you.
Nick was
And I
this
just
bloody toe is.
I was chasing.
I'll
these
do anything.
I was chasing these guys down the alley behind Vaudeville. And I was like, "You made my friend bleed." And he's like, "No, bro, it's cool. Like it's barely bleeding." I was like, "No, Brian, I must avenge you."
Dude, were you
that was the dumb 19-year-old.
And all I had done was tripped. Like I just tripped. The guy was actually cooperating with me that I was leading out. And it wasn't even aggressive at all. I just had him by the arm. I was leading him out, and I was in flip flops, and I kicked something back there.
That's how you grow up. Like that was the me of back then, where I was like, I have to fight for his honor.
So
and now I'm like, there's 6 of them. Like I've seen dudes get stomped out.
You don't want to get kicked in the face.
You do not want to get your head stomped. That's game over.
But like that, going back to the original point, like just one of the reasons you don't want to fight if you have fought and you know a lot about fighting is because you know there's dudes you don't even know what you're getting into. Because I guarantee you that dude was a lot bigger than Aaron, and he was thinking, "Oh, this guy's too small." And dude, Aaron's going to trash you. You're gonna get trashed.
Mark, have you ever been knocked out with a punch to the face?
No.
I'm not surprised.
I mean, I've been knocked down.
Yeah.
You know,
how hard would you have to hit beef to knock him down?
I haven't
he's
been
like
knocked
6'3",
out.
dude.
I've never been knocked out either, but I feel like it's something I need to experience.
Yeah.
You're not missing much.
I mean,
dude.
not like
as a little guy. Let me tell you, it's not real cool to get knocked out. Sucks.
It's just
it's real disorienting. You wake up, you're like,
but it's painless.
I've never
I can say that at least.
At that point, when you wake up, who knows?
Fight, and like I feel like it's something that needs to happen, just so I can like kind of humble myself a little.
Someday, yeah.
I feel like I'm naturally humble just by watching other people. Like I've seen.
Well, I'll tell you what.
I've seen dudes bigger than me just get like their ass.
I see this coming from a mile away.
Well, I'll tell you what, Nick.
Try and bounce me out of his apartment now.
Right now, but at the gym in like a week or two, I'll do you the favor of helping you to lose in a fight.
Not a
real fight. Not a real fight.
If you make it past the first 3 minutes with me,
because you're talking to a higher belt right now, my friend. I know that sounds weird. You went to the army and lost 4 years of training.
What year did you start training, John?
We started in 06.
Oh, yeah, I was a blue belt then.
Yeah, but I'm a brown belt now.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
It's not where you're from, Nick. It's where you're at.
That's the weird thing is that I'm actually superior to you.
Things.
I mean, I know you're a first lieutenant, but that doesn't really translate to the jiu-jitsu.
So how much?
It's funny though, John, because I've always wondered what my balls taste like, and you're gonna tell me firsthand after I drop them into your mouth.
I already know, but the thing is, you're gonna learn how mine.
I knew that was coming too.
I'm not saying you didn't always beat me. Because you did.
Hey, dude, did you?
But 4 years later, motherfucker.
Do you even know?
Nick doesn't.
He doesn't even know your nickname, huh? He doesn't know.
I don't even know it. What is it?
Yeah, the meat grinder, dude. Yeah. Guys took to it. I gave it to him, but that's what he is.
It's your game too that I learned from being grinded in your meat.
It is.
Grinder.
It's a lot. His games honestly is a lot like yours. I mean, it's different in a lot of ways, but it is a lot like yours because you have kind of a meat grinder game.
I'd say it's more similar to his than almost anybody.
Yeah. I didn't even realize that till just now. But having him sitting here, it is real. So, I mean, you do some different things, but you grind people down the same way he used to grind me down.
Do you like side control the most?
Oh God, he killed me from there.
No, he likes mount.
I prefer side control.
Yeah, he prefers side control, dude. I was going to tell you, he prefers side control. That's where I got murdered from for fucking like 4 years.
We have to end this, guys. This is horrible.
This could be 2 shows. You could do part 10 and 11, and then you could be a week ahead for editing
and take a week off,
or be a week ahead for editing. Man, that would give you more time to fuck around.
Let me just say one thing because I don't know if it's going to come back up again. But so the reptilian shapeshifters, you were talking about that to lead into talk about third party.
Yes,
right. Okay,
correct.
But the one thing I wanted to bring up is, so there are actually people that really believe in the reptilian shapeshifters.
Yeah,
and they believe they're space aliens or reptiles, whatever.
Yep.
And there is another group of people now, and the one guy's name is David Icke. He's written some books. I think he might even be a politician in Canada.
Yeah.
But there's
other people. Unfortunate name.
ICKE.
Yeah.
And there's some people now, though, that so they think that he's talking about reptilian shapeshifters and using code words to mean Jews.
Yeah.
And they've come out now
Wait a minute.
in Canada, and they're trying to make him and his group, they're trying to say that it's a hate group. And it's hate speech, and doesn't really mean reptilian shapeshifters. He really means Jews.
So these are psychotic liberals.
Yes.
Oh my God! I'm glad you brought that up.
And
John, you act like
really
John, you act surprised to hear of psychotic liberals. Come on, man. Jesus Christ, come on.
No, I'm used to completely irrational, idiotic liberals. They're all over the place.
Okay.
But this
So we're classifying this as a whole different level.
This is psychosis. Like,
Well, I
this
don't know
isn't.
if it's psychosis or just
But
irrational.
this is beyond
idiotic.
PC. It's
Extreme
using-
paranoia is
Yeah.
psychosis.
Well,
It's like the gun people on the other side.
Right,
I'm just
right.
kidding.
I'm not there. I think I
know
kind
you're
of
not.
clarified that
You
a lot
did
today.
very
like
well and very articulate.
It's only taken 10 shows to make me realize that I was wrong about most things I've thought about in life, because every time I revisit them, I'm like, you're a little off there too, dickhead. Like, do some more work.
That's very gratifying for me to
Hey.
hear. But it took the 10th show for me to be completely proven wrong on the air.
you haven't done anger management.
How'd you get proven? When did you
yeah.
get proven wrong on the air?
Well,
I
he
think
did,
you
he did
guys-
just say he was going to beat me, and we're going to prove that. I know you didn't think I'd just let that go.
No, wait. I'm gonna say something. No disrespect to anyone, but if he's good for it, my money's on John Berger.
Oh! Did you hear that?
And Nick, you know that I mean no
Nick, what are you,
disrespect,
250?
and you know that I totally
With the weight
100%
difference.
respect your game, because like you know I've been
But
on
what
the
if
wrong
it-
end of it a lot of fucking times.
But what if it's
so-
only a 3-minute match? Because that's our deal.
Dude,
'Cause
the
we
way-
can
the
both
way you've been
overlap.
We're
I'm
going
gonna
to
say this,
submission.
though. I'm
We're
gonna
going
say-
to submission.
Oh,
That's
I'm
it.
down.
Well, then I definitely got John, because he'll still have a lot of stamina. Not that you don't, because I saw you go like 5 matches dead tired the other day. But you should see the way this dude's been submitting guys, bro. Like, John's a fucking machine, dude. He comes in and he just starts. He's laying on the mat already, and everybody who walks in, he grabs him and beats him up. So I stall. Like, I fucking put my tape on. I'm like, I'm not getting on there fucking fighting John right away, man. I gotta warm up.
It's
You
it's
should
not.
see how I cash haters' checks, dude.
It's Money Richardson.
I think we're,
Yeah, here's why I don't mind talking shit, dude.
we're losing
No, it's
listeners every
That's
minute
fine.
that this goes by.
That's all
You're
good,
right.
man.
It is fine.
I paid my dues.
10th
man.
episode
I can talk a
spectacular.
little
No,
shit.
it's good. When did you got proven wrong on here, John? You just
I think you guys were generally
the
right
Charlie Hebdo
about
thing.
about
Well,
my
about-
post. Yeah, about the hate group. Like,
You see,
I'm
you
right.
took
I'm
an
technically
extreme.
right, but I think you guys are right to criticize the reaction I had against right wing people, because I
Here's
don't
what I would
need
say.
to be.
I would say, like, you guys were both sort of wrong. You took an extreme to defend the guys who shot. You guys took an extreme to defend the guys who did the thing.
defend the guys
No,
who
no, no.
shot.
But here's
Okay.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Theirs is a lot more defensible. But
Yeah,
like,
yeah, exactly.
Everyone, like I said,
which one's the
everyone was
bigger
wrong.
problem, ISIS or American hate groups? ISIS.
Well,
So
and
me defending the other side.
Everyone involved in that thing was wrong, though.
well, the only reason I even
but
stirred it
the
up
shooters
is
were really wrong. Like, that's what it comes down to. you
the
know
only
what I mean?
reason
Paul
I even
cannot believe we're still doing this.
the only reason I even stirred it up was just because of what we do here. Like, we're supposed to be in the middle of it.
You got it, man. You got me. You hit me right, and I love it. And thank you. We gotta stop.
Yeah, good times.
Nick Richardson, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
That was fucking fun. How long was it?
We're at 3 hours, bro.
Yeah, it's 2 shows, man. Just cut it up. 2 shows, dude.
Mark Beef, you've been with me from the start. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Beef.
A lot of fun.
Brian, you've actually been with me from the start too.
That's what a stowaway is, John. I'm here. You can't fucking get rid of me.
We're gonna keep. I want to do 50 episodes, and if on episode 50 this thing has no traction and no one's listening to it except for a few dozen people,
Turn into a dance party.
we'll make it a Japanese pop dance party show. Happy fun time hour.
I'm just gonna keep showing up.
Where's that Thai lady boy?
I'm just gonna.
Where'd he get to?
And Nick can keep showing up and giving us historical trivia.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was
Dude,
great.
I want to just blow fucking.
you should be the
History
new
bombs all
when
over
we
your face.
when we don't have a guest. You should be on
Yeah,
repeatedly.
just come in.
And you guys
Nah,
can
man, I
wrestle.
enjoyed it.
In uniform,
gonna-
we can play
No,
with your
it's gonna
nightstick.
happen. Don't worry.
We're gonna wrestle.
The die has been cast.
Yeah.
as they would say.
You're gonna crush me for a little bit, but
I can't wait. I stayed away from him the other day because I know his game and my neck's still jacked. I'm like, I'm not going with
I
Richardson.
don't even know if I can still
That
do
moose.
anything. I've been out for
He's like the human version of my pit bull, Nick, the moose.
Nick is awesome.
He's gonna moose me.
Jiu-jitsu. That's all there is.
He is awesome at jiu-jitsu.
All right, guys. Episode 10.
Peace out.
Thank you guys for listening. See you later.